All right, welcome in. Good morning, Baseball and Coffee. Here we go. Wednesday, December 3rd, 10:01 in the morning. Feels like 10 degrees outside. I know it's 30, but it feels like 10 degrees up here in the Northeast. Hope everybody's good. I'm doing good, and this is a good comment here right off the rip by Victoria. Moves are happening. Yes, they are. So we'll get started with a few moves for sure, and then we'll do some prospects. Garrett Whitlock will join around 11:30. We'll talk to him a little bit about some Red Sox stuff, some Team USA stuff, which he got picked up. So that's very cool. And by USA, which is, kind of the dream for a lot of guys for WBC. So that's great. So we'll chat with him about that a little bit. And then, we'll bounce around. We'll hit it all. Yes, I got my Mets sweatshirt going on. So we are doing it. And yeah, this is it's like a neck thing, So, but I like to be warm. It's a big deal for me to be warm anyway. Cheers for the morning. Happy coffee day. And we will get going here in a moment. All right. Let me hop over here to the main screen. So this is Garrett. As you see, we'll have him on in an hour and a half or so. But I have pulled up a few boards here just to see what we have going. We have to talk about this guy, Devin Williams. We have to talk about this guy, Cody Ponce, because they both signed. So we're going to get into that in a minute. Let me just really quickly head over to my Winter League standings. I'm curious real quick because I haven't checked up on anything that happened yesterday and see what the scores were from last night. 23-8. So they're falling back to the pack a touch. So today's the 3rd. So yesterday was the 2nd. Let's just check these box scores real quick from the DR. All right. Here's the Toros game. Heimer Candelario with a big double in this one. Okay, nothing really to see there. Escogido, 6-0 over Aguilas. Who pitched for Escogido? Likens. Fernando Abad in there. Familia. Blah, blah, blah. Chadwick Trump with a home run. Let me see if I can see that real quick. Chadwick Trump. This is a Braves legend right here. Just curious to watch this dinger. Why not? You like dingers? Not when they're hit off me, but in general. All right, come on, internet. Let's go. Ooh, really high. So I guess that ended up being a home run. All right. And okay, so nothing great there. Oh, what's the other game here? Gigantes and Licey. Curious about that. Shane Green getting the start. 5 innings. Shane Green for the Gigantes. It's got to be Shane Green, right? Yep, Shane Green. Wow. I remember when he was a closer for the Tigers. Then he went to the Braves, and that was it. Didn't really see him again. So that does make me interested, though. Well, let me just go here. Shane Green. Here's Shane Green's outing. I'm curious to watch a few outs real quick just to see if it's still a sinker changeup splitter thing. So this is a slider. Kind of a middle pop-up. Second out. Gustavo Nunez called out on strikes. This is going to be a 4-seamer at 92. Man. Caught looking for something else. Old Gustav. Oh, wrong one. We need the Christian Adames strikes that swing. So we'll just watch the first inning. I just want to see something real quick. Here's another four-seamer. So not as much sinker, actually. We've seen 2 four-seamers and a slider. Get some up top. All right. Anyway, sorry about that. I was just curious. I wanted to take a quick moment to check that out. All right, let's go and talk about the 2 signings. First, we'll do Devin Williams because that's a little more straightforward. So here's the Mets' current depth chart. Devin Williams currently slots in as closer. Obviously, everybody that's a Mets fan, it's crazy. You get a great pitcher, you sign a great pitcher, you should be excited. But literally the first thing that you think about right after that is, what does this mean for Edwin Diaz? And I was no different than anybody else. I definitely thought the same thing. What does this mean for Edwin? What are the Mets going to do going forward? Now, you look at this bullpen mix as it stands. Minter coming back off of injury. So there's a little bit of risk there. But if he's healthy, you got to love those last 2. Alzolay is also another guy coming back off of injury. They rehabbed him all last year, so expect him to be in the mix. Raley is solid, and the rest of these dudes are mostly interchangeable parts. So expect them to make... I know they need to make at least one more big move out here, probably Edwin. That would be the hope. For Mets fans and even for myself, I think that would be great. Have him back in the orange and blue. But if not, you do have a really, really good closer, and I could argue that Devin Williams should have commanded a very similar salary to Diaz. But because of his down year last year, this is where it ended up. 3 for, what did he get, like 51-ish, something like that. So, I don't know. Interesting, but... if they weren't to get Diaz, they're going to have to pivot pretty quickly because this bullpen needs a lot more work. But if you do get Edwin and then you add him in here as closer, you can move Devin down, AJ down, all these other guys down. All of a sudden, the back end's looking very, very good. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a great signing, personally. I think this was a good move. I think this guy's a great pitcher. I think last year he got into some fluky stuff. If you go back and look at his metrics compared to the other years, they're not really that different. Little less first pitch strike early on in the season, which he actually ended up rebounding back to his normal rates, so that's fine. Even the walk rate, basically fine. So it was just some barrels. I made like a little compilation video of the barrels that he allowed this year. It was mostly just pulled changeups down into lefties. I feel like that's a mistake that he rectified really well towards the end of the year. But at the same time, the numbers are what they are, and they're a little skewed in my opinion. All right, let me just see real quick by his game logs, because you can really see it in the game logs for Dev last year. All right, here's April. There's a 3 spot here on the 9th, and then there's back-to-back 3 spots on the 19th and 25th. Now, I will say, as a reliever, especially the second one, because he got no outs, he pitched 0.0 innings in this game versus Toronto, that he allowed 2 hits, hit a batter, and all 3 of those runs came in to score. It is so hard to come back from that. Like, at this moment, that ballooned him to an 11.25 ERA. So pretty much regardless of what he did the rest of the year, it was going to be tough to make his overall numbers look shiny. And that got even exacerbated a couple outings later when he gave up yet another 3 spot on May 5th. So that is 12 runs and only 4 appearances, before May 5th. That's really hard to come back from. But he did. He pretty much put up zeros for a long time after that. There's a 2 spot here at the end of May, but then that's it for a while. There's only 1 run allowed in all of June. And then even in July, where he started to come back to the field again, particularly in this one stretch right here, which got him back in trouble. See, he got down to 4.58 on this date. He was down to a 4.58 ERA on, 7/27. So typically what I would always say is when you're chasing ERA numbers and you're way over, like you're over 5, you're over 6, the first thing you always look at is getting back to that 4.5, because 4.5 is 1 run every other inning. And then from there, you're usually only a handful of scoreless innings to then crack under 4. And that's kind of the mental game that you play with yourself sometimes, is just get myself back under 4. But the first step is to get to that 4.5. He was right there. And then he ends up going 5 straight outings with allowing a run. His next couple games, two games in a row versus Tampa, 2 in a row at Texas, and then 1 at Houston, which put him back up to a 5.73. Now, this would have killed most pitchers. Mentally, he's getting booed. He left a bad taste in the mouth of the fans in that April. So a lot of uninformed fans that don't really understand how this works, are on this guy thinking that he stinks, even though he's been basically automatic for the better part of 2.5 months headed into this stretch. But when you get reset back to a 5.73, it's disappointing. Not only that, you look at your FIP, you look at your expected ERA, you're tracking the stuff that you're actually doing, and you're getting unlucky. It's not right, but you can't go and tell that to the media. Oh, man, it's all bad luck, blah, blah, blah. You can say that to some extent, but you have to own it as well, especially in New York. But to his credit, and this is something that was super impressive to me, and it's been impressive with a number of guys over the years, he put his head down and he got to work, and he just pitched well the rest of the season. Now, he did have this 1-4 spot at Houston that basically put his ERA in a chokehold, and he was never going to get it down the rest of the way. He ends up with a 4.79. But really, you see, it's just a few blow-up games. Other than that, there's long stretches of zeros. I mean, this whole stretch right here is scoreless. That's 8 1/3. So basically throwing a shutout there. And then this whole stretch to end the season is also scoreless, surrounding that 4-run game. So that's 8 1/3 scoreless and a 9 scoreless surrounding a 4-run outing. So a lot of times when you look at relief pitchers, you really gotta shy away from that ERA number, and don't let that define you. Let's not define pitchers by that, is my point. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, there's probably some other stats we can look into that also affected his numbers here as well. Wait, we just went back to Whitlock. I don't want to go to Whitlock. I want to go ahead to Devin. Something interesting here about inherited runners and bequeathed runners. Where is that? Because he got screwed over bad with his inherited runners, bequeathed runners as well. Where is this? Well, I know it's on the MLB site, so let's go there real quick. MLB.com. And just want to show this real quick, because this is also a big factor when you're looking. Geez, man, there's so many Williams. These people. There's so many factors that add up to your actual ERA at the end of the year, and it's just one of those things where it's like some stuff is out of your control. And here's what I mean. Okay, so inherited runners and inherited runners scored. He actually only inherited 6 runners on the season, which is very low, so he was mostly clean innings, but he allowed 0 of those guys to score. And he bequeathed 10, which means they took him out with 10 runners on base throughout the season. It was actually not a very high number, but of those 10, 7 scored. So 7 of those runs got cashed in. So he was not picked up by his teammates. He wasn't saved by them at all. Meanwhile, he was saving his teammates. So it's just one of those years, again, where the reality of the numbers doesn't really show the underlying ability of the player. That's what this page is going to show us for the most part. And yeah, was it his best season? No. But do I think he's a lot closer to his, sub 2 ERA form, 2 ERA form than the 4.79 he showed last year? Yeah. Frankly, at age 31, I feel like he was right there with Edwin as the top guys on the market. So to me, this was a good deal, both cost-wise, term-wise, also flexibility that he's willing to pitch 8th inning. Devin's familiar with David Stearns. They're both familiar with each other from Milwaukee. So I think this is a good fit. He already went through it in New York. It didn't kill him. He's still standing. And I expect big things out of this. I think this was a shrewd move by the Mets. And overall, I really like it. The pitches never really took a step back. Airbender's still a total outlier pitch. I mean, look at that. Fastball still has good ride and arm side. So the stuff is there. If you're looking for any worry with Devin, I would say there's 2 things to think about. Number one, he's had some injuries. He had a little bit of a back injury. like a rib cage fracture, something like that, a couple years ago. And then he's had some shoulder issues, which makes sense a little bit with the way he comes through the ball. Being that he's extreme pronator because he's able to get to that airbender shape. Let me go grab this baseball. When he goes to extreme airbender shape, he has to get like way inside the ball. And it's just a different angle and a different stress you're putting on the shoulder a little bit. So to me, it's not that he can't stay healthy, and I think he probably will. He's done a good job for the most part overall. I know the 24, he was hurt mostly with a back thing. But the biggest thing with them is to figure out a good routine to keep him healthy with that shoulder. And then maybe look to add another weapon. The two weapons, I mean, as good as they are, it's two weapons. You can probably flip a coin and know what you're getting. Now, I'm not saying to develop a pitch just to develop it. You don't want to develop just a shitty pitch for no reason. But I think it would be just awesome if he could have anything else besides this. Something in the middle of the chart, something on the left side of the chart, any type of breaking ball whatsoever to steal strikes with. And if potentially they can find a grip to make it a positive pitch for him, then, that would go a long way. Because again, if you can just say, you know what, I'm sitting change up this whole at bat and I need to pop out of this one window, it does give you a fighting chance, even though he's got an incredible, change up and fastball. If you're hunting it and you know the window that needs to come out of, and, obviously it's a 50-50 chance, if you see a 5 or 6 pitch at bat, you're probably going to get it. And you just don't miss it, which is what happened a little bit this year. This is how runs can score if a guy who's this good. So, I don't know. That's kind of the equation. For the most part, I think you just roll him out there and let him go. He's a super, what a weapon to have. He has no problem righties or lefties. He's been comfortable in a setup role early in his career. He just went through the fire, the whole New York thing with the Yankees, and I actually think this was a great move. I know that it's a little weird how many former Yankees, myself included, the Mets signed over the past decade or so, but this is a great signing, and it's insurance as well. Like hopefully you get Edwin back, and it's a double whammy at the end of the game. But if you don't, I think you feel pretty good about having Devin as closer, and then obviously you'll pick up the pieces. But I think they had to make this move before they got into too much of a negotiation with Diaz. I think they had to make this move. They had to set had to set themselves up, just in case something goes wrong with the Edwin situation. And I think they did that, and I really like it. And just to rehash really quick on the Mets bullpen situation, the way David and the way these guys want to run it, they're definitely going to churn the last 2 or 3 spots of this pen, but that they easily have 2 more spots available for good signings if they want to upgrade here. So obviously they're going to shoot for the moon with the 1. And even if they don't get him, I'm sure they'll be shopping at the high end of the market, and then they'll probably add some more. And then really they need some more starting as well, because you can have a great bullpen, but if it needs to be activated in the 5th, 6th inning every day, it becomes a pretty crappy bullpen pretty fast. So anyway, that's my Devin Williams thoughts. Let's get in the chat real quick. And see what you guys have on that. I'm sure there's a lot of opinions on this. Devin Williams plus Diaz equals great signing. Signing Williams plus no Diaz, not as good. Yeah, well, not as good on paper for sure. You would love to have 2 guys who regularly have their ERA starting with 1s back to back. Is Diaz getting 100 for 5 realistic? No idea. Somebody's going to have to do that. Haven't seen a lot of 5-year contracts being doled out to relievers. Lately, it's obviously he's a special case, but he's not as young as he was the first time through when he got that money. So we'll see. We'll see. I have a feeling that's going to be tough, but he's certainly good enough to command it. So we'll see. We'll see how far everybody gets pushed here and who the other people who come in. I've been trying to figure out the Diaz market a little bit in my head. I think Toronto is a team to watch. We're about to talk about them in a second, but I think they're a team to watch. They could use an upgrade in the back end, and Hoffman could slide back to setup man. So I think Toronto. Obviously, the Dodgers have a little bit of a need there. I don't know if they'd be willing to meet his price. But other than that, I'm having a hard time kind of maybe figuring out exactly where to go. I thought maybe the Braves could have been a sneaky one early in the year, but they went and got Iglesias back. So I don't know. There's a lot of good relievers out there. This year, it's a pretty crowded market, and I'll be curious to see how it works out. I don't know if he'll get the 5, but if anybody's going to get it, it would probably be him. All right, Dan, I like that Williams doesn't have the opt-outs. The Mets were buying slightly low, and he's with them for all 3 years. Totally agree. I love this deal for the Mets financially. I think, yeah, it's a big price, but he's worth it. And really, I thought he was going to get even more than this, to be honest with you. I thought he would be valued as if that last year didn't even happen, and then I thought he'd be looking closer to 100 million. I really think he's that talented. If you look at Devin's career stats, I mean, honestly, they're laughable. They're actually laughable. And I remember I was on SNY early in the year when he was struggling, and they were asking me about him, and it was just like, look, like his track record's not good. It's ridiculous. I mean, look at this. Look at this stretch from his rookie year, because he only got 13 games in 2019, so 2020 was the rookie year. From the rookie year through last year, you're talking a cumulative 1.7 in 228 games. That's a joke. That's a freaking joke. Almost 15 strikeouts per 9, too many walks, but only 4.5 hits per 9. So you're getting one of the best here. I know that we want Edwin back. Everybody wants him back. I get it. But this is definitely something to celebrate as well. This was a great move. So very big fan of this move overall. All right, what else we got here in the chat before we head over to Cody Ponce? I think he will pitch better in Citi Field with that win. The airbender will bend, no doubt. He's going to throw some hellacious airbenders at Citi Field, which he's done in the past. I remember he closed the game out with us where he got in a little trouble and punched out the side on all changeups a couple years back. The biggest thing is just keeping this guy in the strike zone. If he can keep himself in the strike zone, then we'll be in a good place. This was a blip year, best strike percentage and walk rate of his career with a slightly above average year. He commands close to Hader contract, still very good. I agree totally. I think he's up there with the best. I think he's a top 5 reliever of the generation, of this new generation with Hader. He's right there. Edwin, Hader, and him are probably the top guys. Obviously, the one right before that is more like Robertson, Jansen, Chapman, Kimbrel. But this one, I mean, unbelievable. All right. Beard policy back on the menu for the pinstripe. So a lot of people are chiming in that he had a very big contribution in his 1 year with the Yankees, and this was it, was the beard policy. So that's funny to me. He had the cutter, but I wonder if that messed up either the pronation. Yeah, so I was wondering that too. He had a cutter for a bit. I still would like to see him have something over there. I just think a 2-pitch pitcher, it can work. It can work. I would like to see him have something to throw them off the scent a little bit, because you've seen that this year a lot of teams were just sitting on changeups, and when they got them, they weren't missing them. So it's just one of those things that you have to consider. Need a new formula for relievers that weights inherited runner outcomes against earned runs. I agree. Also, straight inherited runner stats, even the ones I just showed, are kind of skewed because all the situations are different. Like if you come in bases loaded, no outs, you're probably not going to get out of there with no run scoring. Whereas if you come in the game with 2 outs and a man on first or a man on second, yeah, you should be able to strand that runner. So those are different circumstances, and it makes the straight slash line of 8 out of 20 or whatever just kind of obsolete and not important. It's much better indicated through win probability added and other stats like that. But I mean, it's always interesting to look at just when you're looking at a guy's ERA, were other people cashing his runs in? Was he saving other guys? I feel like all that should get added in a little bit when you think about relief pitchers. The list of teams dramatically cutting payroll seems to outnumber the list of teams spending big. Yeah, that's a little bit of it's a little not a great place to be if you're some of these free agents, because once it's going to be a musical chairs situation. Once all the chairs get filled up at the big tables, there might not be any little chairs even to go around. So it's going to be interesting. These guys signing in Toronto make me wonder, do you pay your agents out of your post-tax income? No. You pay them out of the gross total, which makes it closer to 10%, which is something that always really got me. Really did not like that. Did not like that. Yes. So that's already been answered here. Pre-tax income. So it's crazy. It really is. I just think it's just the reality, a little bit of the game. There's just a lot of teams that now are emboldened that they don't feel like they have to spend to win. And they're also thinking about this potential labor strife. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, we're in a little bit of a situation with some of these teams just not wanting to spend money to compete. All right, let's move on to Cody Ponce. He signed a 3-year deal with the Blue Jays. So let me hop over to the roster resource now for the Blue Jays, because All of a sudden, their rotation is very crowded. It goes 7 deep, but really 6 deep in terms of studs. Because like right now, they have Gosman, Cease, Bieber, Yasavage, and Ponce, but they still have Lauer and Barrios listed as relievers. So, of course, my first thought yesterday was what's going to happen with Barrios, and we'll get into that in a minute, but I think it's more important for us to break down Ponce first and what the Blue Jays are getting. So Cody goes to Korea. Well, first he was in Japan for a few years. Then he gets over to Korea this past year playing for Hanwha, the Eagles, and puts together literally a historic season. This was his statistics from this past year in Korea. 17-1 with a 1.89 ERA, 0.94 whip. He was named MVP. 29 starts, 20 quality, 180 and 2/3, 252 strikeouts, 41 walks. Only allowed 28 extra base hits, which was 10 home runs and 18 doubles. And that's a pretty offensive league. If you go look at his game logs here, he got deep. He almost never pitched. I don't think he ever pitched less than 5 innings. And for the most part, he was rolling in the 6-7 and the 7s, mostly 6-7, mostly in the 7s for the whole season. He did have this one historic game right here, 8 innings, 18 strikeouts to set the single season record. So look, he did it. If you're going to get 3 for 30 coming back out of Korea when your major league track record looks like this, 1-7 with a 5.86 in 55 innings over 2 years, and they're a bunch of years ago. That was 2020 and 2021. When that's your platform that you're looking at from the major league side, it goes to show you what he did this year and the improvements he's made. His velocity has really jumped up. His changeup got fixed. So we'll go ahead. I have a metric here. I have something in the photos here. Yep, here we go. All right, so here's Cody's metrics from Korea. Now, some of these we'll talk about a little bit about how some of these metrics will deflate slightly with the Major League Ball, but still. 4-seam up to 95.5. He was more in the 93-ish range before, so he had about 2 miles an hour. 17 induced vertical break on the 4-seam, 11.5 on the fastball. So that's probably going to degrade a little bit in terms of the IVB when he comes over to MLB, but 17 is a good place to be. That's above average. Also 68% strikes with it. 27% whiff rate on a 4-seam is very good. And he was getting them a chase above the zone. So here is the changeup. Now the changeup is a new grip. It's a kicked changeup group, kick changeup grip. So he spikes the finger here, the middle finger. And what that's allowed him to do is create way more depth on his changeup. The depth on his changeup prior was like 10 to 11 induced vertical break. Right now he's at 2 on his changeup. So big difference. When you have a 4-seam at 17 and your changeup's at 2, that's 15 inches of vertical separation. Also, even the horizontal break's relatively similar, so it kind of hides it a little bit with the movement, but then that drop is going to be very drastic. And you can see that was his number 1 whiff pitch, 46% whiff, 39% miss in the zone, and 38% chase. So I think this is the biggest tangible difference. These 2 pitches are the biggest tangible difference of Cody prior to his year in Korea and now. He throws harder, and he has a much better changeup with much better separation. So I think those 2 things are very good signs, and he already had a pretty good breaking ball to go along with it. These are the other pitches. The cutter is at 8.6, IVB right around 90 at -1, so that's a fairly standard tiny little cutter. And then he's got this curveball, which is his 2 speeds down pitch. This is his slowest pitch, as his changeup's more of a power change. So this is how he gets them out front a little bit. Not a huge part of his game, but it's part of it. And then he also has a sinker, which he added in there, which I actually think is like a splinker. So from what I've read about Cody a little bit recently is that he was trying to go a little bit with a approach similar to Skeens, where he has both a split or splinker type pitch as well as this changeup, this kick change. So if you know how to toggle those, pretty deadly combination. Also going to really help you with your contact rate. But I think what the Blue Jays are ultimately looking for here is swing and miss stuff, and it's no different from the Dylan Cease. They're banking on a guy who has really good swing and miss stuff, and it's going to generate a lot of chase. And definitely in their models, however he's looking right now is what they were hunting. And I also think they like the price, $10 million a year with big time upside. So even if he falls flat on his face, it's probably not going to kill you payroll wise. But if he pops and he's able to be like a number 2 or a number 3 type impact, well, now you're getting him at a huge cheap discount. So it makes sense. And I know they had their pick of the litter probably here. They could have went and brought back Bassett, obviously Scherzer. They could have hunted in other parts of the market, Amai, Valdez. But ultimately, they settle on Ponce, so they probably feel like has just as much upside as anyone, and is going to come in at a $10 million a year price tag, so that's not bad. Okay, what do we have in the chat here before we look at a little bit of video here? I think it's feeling more likely that Bieber not feeling well. I don't really get that. Bieber just was healthy the whole way through the playoffs. Is this a conspiracy comment that maybe he takes the option year because he's not healthy? I don't know. I think we'll talk about Toronto in a second, but this definitely puts them in a position where they could do some things trade wise if they want to. If Bo doesn't go back to Toronto, do you think there's a deal with Barrios going to the Mets and McNeil to Toronto? Obviously, other pieces would be involved, and not straight up. Perhaps it would feed a need for both teams. Mets could use a starting pitcher. Then Toronto would get a second baseman if Bo wasn't to re-sign. It would be a major downgrade in that situation. But we were trying to figure this out on my Substack yesterday, and I said some dumb shit about Chris Bryant that made no sense. But in general, you're looking for if Barrios is the guy, then you're looking for like a distressed asset to kind of swap him with, or you're willing to take on salary to get a prospect out of it or something. Or they might just let it ride with the depth right now. But it is weird to start the year with at least 6, and if you include Lauer, 7 real starters. So I understand no team gets through the 162 with 5 starters, but you don't sign these guys to big money to just keep them marinating either. Like, they're supposed to be taking the ball. So I don't know. Obviously, it could all get worked out, but we'll see. They definitely have some options here. I know he struggled in Japan as well prior to this. In fact, the year prior, he was really bad in Japan. So whatever he did, he had a hell of an offseason before going to Korea, and this was insane. Twitter and Reddit seem to think Ponce might have been signed with rotation hopes, but bullpen in mind. Yeah, maybe that's a possibility. I mean, certainly his stuff would play to the bullpen. Electric fastball, good off speeds. But I don't know. I'd be surprised. He threw 180 and 2/3 last year. To stick him in the bullpen when there's all sorts of relievers that you could have had that are proven guys for that price tag, I'd be surprised. But we'll see. We'll see what they decide to do, because they have options now, but we're going to get into that in a second. I just want to get through these comments. This is another possibility. Maybe they want to limit your Savage's innings. So yeah, I floated that yesterday just to be evil on the Discord, just to say, oh, so you Savage to AAA, and people were like, no way, are you crazy? But I think it could happen, just because if they're trying to limit him a little bit coming back, obviously last year was a lot. He threw a way deep into the playoffs. It could be an option. It's not a sexy option, but it could be an option. Okay, let's watch a little bit of Cody Ponce. We'll just watch some of the shorts, because I don't want to get in trouble with copyright again like I did last time. So that's 2019. Here's 2020. So we're getting a little look into his progression over the years. And then here's 2025. Looks to me like he's lead leg blocking a little bit better. Let's see what else we got here. There's that changeup. That's nasty. That's that kick change right there. So I think it's really just the huge separation has changed his entire career. Now he's letting it eat at a faster rate, and he's getting way more drop on that change. So now he's got not just fastball breaking ball. He's got fastball. Ooh, nice curveball too there. He's got fastball kick change as a great combination. You can see he's getting tons of chase at the top of the zone. Now, I don't think in MLB he'll get the same exact effect anymore at the top. So I don't expect him to come in and be like a dominating ace all of a sudden. But I think he's got good stuff. He's going to strike some guys out. And it's going to be interesting to watch this guy. That was a pretty good defensive play. What else we got here? Now, I was looking at his delivery. I was comparing the delivery to Joe Musgrove. That was my comparison when watching him. It's not that long of a stride. Allows him to maintain leverage over on top of the ball. And I don't know, something about the timing in his delivery reminds me of Joe Musgrove a little bit. I don't know what else you guys maybe see, but I definitely, it's definitely what I felt watching him. I mean, nobody's swinging at that. Ew. What happened there? This is like a game that I don't even know what happened. I'm looking for Cody Ponce videos. Look at him doing the pitch clock. Oh, there's a bench clearing here. Ooh, full hand tat? I like that. Ooh, we got Korean fights. All right. Anyway, I don't even know what we're watching anymore. But that's Cody. We know about him a little bit. We talked to him a little bit on our international free agent situation. And I don't know. I personally believe that the Blue Jays are going to do something else. I think they're really gearing up to go all in this year. They know they have Gosman probably leaving after next year. But to have this many starters that are above average, I could see something happening. Now, maybe they could do a move to limit Savage's innings, and obviously they are going to need more than 5 starters. I'm totally agreed on that. But I don't know. I think they have the surplus to do some things now. This is about Savage. He threw 130 innings last year, threw 100-ish 2 times in college. Even if you limit his innings, shift to pen or cut. Don't innings August and December. Jays. Yeah, I think that, look, if this is me, I'd just let him ride at this point. But I don't know, because I don't know how they're going to figure this out. The Barrios part is a thing, but then again, you'd have to eat eat some salary, or you'd have to, because they have him down here in the bullpen now, or you'd have to kind of trade him for a similar, distressed asset somewhere else. I saw Castellanos floated out there. So there's some other names. None of them are very inspiring. But, they're there. Let's look at Barrios. I'm actually curious what we think here. Baseball Savant, not a fan of his work last year at all. And really, it hasn't been a fan for a while. Look at that. That's crazy. So since 2022 began, they don't have him as an above-average guy by xwOBA at all. Way too many barrels. What does he do well? Well, he doesn't walk guys. He throws a lot of innings. He's been unbelievably durable, which has been his calling card until he finally got hurt a little bit. And then he was obviously left off that postseason roster the whole way through. So they have some tough decisions to make. But the way that this looks does mean that teams aren't going to be excited to take them off your hands as much as hoping to get some sort of fair trade pushed across, but I don't think people will be chomping at the bit. So I don't know, maybe you just keep him, because at the end of the day, if he is healthy, he is an innings eater. I mean, you look at these 189, 192, even last year 166 in a quote down year. Even in a year where they think he stinks by expected stats, 9-5 with a 4.17, 166 innings and 30 starts is not bad. Like, that's still very useful. So I don't know. It does equate to a little bit of an issue. I think Lauer's locked in no matter what. It's kind of like the depth piece, as well as the potential swingman option. But yeah, other than that, I mean, shoot. And they've definitely also leaned into four-seamers and more of a north-south approach. Gosman north-south, Cease north-south. Bieber is a little bit of both, but has an element of north-south. The Savage is north-south as you can be, and so is Ponce. So what they've done here is they've built a little bit of a rotation with the archetype of we can get righties and lefties out. We don't struggle with any platoon splits. We're going to go for a ton of swing and miss, try to limit contact as much as possible. It's interesting. I think there would have been room for a little more variety in this rotation, but this is the way they went, and that's the way they're making their bets. And you can't fault them for having conviction here, and they certainly did. To pick up Bieber, Cease, because technically Bieber was a pickup, right, since he took his option. So Bieber, Cease, and Ponce, and we're not to Christmas yet, not even to the winter meetings yet. That's very aggressive, and it allows them to take their attention fully to Boba and figure out what they're going to do there. So I guess that's my whole thoughts on Cody Ponce and the Blue Jays. And so we'll go ahead and we'll move on to top prospect life here in a second. Let me get in the chat for a minute, and we'll get back into some prospects here. Load management, Dodger style incoming. Dodgers are the best at this. It's not that the guys aren't feeling crappy. They're just making sure that they keep their guys in tip-top shape for when it matters. Now, it's a little trickier maybe in the AL East this year. The competition's going to be stiff. Orioles are spending. They expect to be good. Yankees expect to be good. And Red Sox expect to be good. And you really never know about the Rays. So to me, you can't expect to just coast in there. So yeah, you want to load management a little bit, but at the same time, they got to pitch. They got to pitch. They got to go ahead and win. So it's going to be important. All right, what else we got? So a lot of talks about agent fees. We'll let somebody else handle that. I wonder if Kirk's catching style complements the north-south style, stealing low strikes. Well, he is very good at stealing low strikes, as we've looked at. It just could be something that they believe in a little bit more. It is tough to game plan a little bit against a guy with no platoon splits, and they have a lot of pitchers that are kind of neutral on the platoon side. So, in a way, I can see that. I've been talking about this a little bit. I don't believe that the ABS will have any. I don't believe that the ABS will have any impact on framing. I think framing will be just as prevalent. I think it will matter a lot, and I don't think you're going to see a ton of ABS challenges when pitches are close. And guys, the catcher's job in these situations is to make everything look good and make it really put a little doubt in that pitcher's mind, so that, that hitter's mind, so that they're not just knowing that everything's a ball and they can challenge constantly. So I think framing's super important. It's just now there's this other element of the challenge, but I think framing stays the same. Catchers, they stay exactly the way they've been, and I think Kirk and Bailey and those guys will still be super valuable doing it this way. Ponce and Cease combined AAV roughly the same as Scherzer and Bassett's. Great place to be. You're trading in two old guys for two younger guys. So I kind of like it. Kind of like it for the Jays. It would have been very easy to be sentimental and run the entire roster back, bring back older guys. And I love some of those older guys. Those are some of my good buddies. But I also think you got to be shrewd sometimes, and you got to go for the guy with the stuff. And right now, Ponce and Cease are the guys with the stuff. So I get it. Now, I mentioned Cease wouldn't have been my cup of tea for that price and for that length of time, and I had him rated as my fourth, but still, I see what they're doing, and I like their conviction. I like their conviction. ABS wouldn't, not entirely just in key moments, correct. Well, I'm just gonna go through the list. Bazzana's on it today, though. I'm pretty sure. Sorry, Spectre. I'm gonna go through it as they come. Thoughts on Scherzer as a reliever? He doesn't want to be a reliever, so it doesn't matter what my thoughts are. He's gonna start or he's not gonna play. I can guarantee you that. Bullpen, that would be a playoff conversation. Max is a starter through and through. He's got to finish ahead of Verlander in some numbers, so that's not gonna happen if he's a reliever. How do I feel about the ABS? If we have the ability to get every call right, why wouldn't we? Totally disagree. I think getting every call right and having a robot umpire just flash strikes and balls takes us into a totally different place in baseball. Take completely nukes the catcher's position and their impact. So now you're going to have guys not trying to frame, not caring about anything except getting in position to throw, and just basically stopping the ball back there. You're going to see a totally different brand of catcher back there. I also think it's just lame. Like, it's much cooler for the entertainment value to have somebody do the challenge and everybody go, oh, he's challenging, and then see what happens. And if the guy's wrong, he's got egg on his face. And if he's right, he looks smart. And I like that entertainment part of it. And listen, the big plays of the game will get challenged, but I just don't like the entire game being machine dictated personally. So my opinion, we're going to really like this challenge system, and we're probably never going to want to change it. I do understand the argument of getting every call right. There's definitely a solid argument for that, but for me, I don't like it. All right, here we go. Here we go. There's so much in here. Well, we got some disagreement in here. We got Linda is here for the robot umps. Get it right. And then I'm more on Lemon Pincher is so soulless. We want missed calls and passion. But the thing is if you get it right, you maintain your challenge. If you get them wrong, you lose them. So you could be challenging all game as long as you're getting them right. And that's what's going to be so fascinating is the human element intertwined with this machine element, in my opinion. And I kind of agree with Victoria. I would prefer no technology once the game begins. I prefer to study it all up in the background and then when it begins. All right, we got to get to prospects because we're going to have about 40 minutes until Garrett's going to join us. So, all right, let's get into it. We are up to number 12, which is Mr. Bryce Eldridge. He did debut with the San Francisco Giants last year. He's a mountain of a man at only 21 years old. 6'7", 240. He's probably even heavier than that. He's an interesting prospect. He's drafted 16th overall. Here are the grades. Hit 50, 70 power, 40 run, which makes sense for his size, 60 arm, 45 field. So not much of a fielder, but a big-time impact bat. He was the top player for USA Baseball in 2022 as a two-way player. He made it all the way to AAA at age 19, which is impressive. Let's look at the stats from last season. These are his minor league stats. We know he got to the big leagues and did nothing, but this is his minor league stats from last year. He went mostly AA and AAA and hit for a combined 843 OPS, 260, 333, 510, 21 doubles, 25 home runs. Here's the big thing is the strikeouts, 127 punchies, only 42 walks. You expect him to have some more walks as time went on. And then when he got to the Giants, it's only 28 at-bats in 10 games, but he really did nothing. 107, no homers, 2 doubles, struck out 13 times, did walk 7, which isn't bad, but overall was a little bit overwhelming when he got to the big leagues last year. Let me take a look at what Prospect Savant has to say about him in the minors. So this is our second hitter that we've seen. This is our second prospect that we've seen, along with Basayo, whose game is impact in terms of they impact the shit out of the ball. When they hit it, they murder it. It's just a matter of are they going to hit it enough, and do they have enough value other places? So you look at the negatives here. Too many strikeouts, not enough walks, too much chase, too much whiff. Doesn't get the ball pull side in the air enough to tap into his power in game. He's got no speed. He's got very low defensive ability. But what you're hoping for on the upside of this guy is all of these stats to come to the forefront anyway. xWOBA, 90th percentile, and you see the max EV of almost 115, the average EV of almost 96, which is insane. Lots of barrels. He hits the ball hard, as you would expect for a giant human. All right, let me take a second to try to get into this real quick, because I have to do a little sign-in, so I'll do that when I'm not on the screen, so we can find Bryce Eldridge's hard hits from the minors and get a better sense of his swing, since in the big leagues, I didn't get a great look at any of that. All right. Stats search, hitting, hardest hit balls by player. And then we are looking for the levels. We're looking for not major leagues. We're looking for AAA and AA here. current batter. Bryce Eldridge. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, so you don't learn a lot from a ground ball up the middle, but let's just watch the setup. Extremely tall, fairly over the plate, fairly close to the plate, which tells me that generally he wants the ball middle in if he's trying to draw himself a little closer. I'm going to guess that his frame honestly drives most of his prospect ability, just the ability to hit the ball really hard. I'm not sure how skilled this player is going to end up being, so let's see. Come on, internet. Here we go. I mean, the swing's fairly simple. At least there's not a lot of moving parts in it. Like, you know, this guy's always going to be compared to the other mammoth men that are big time swing and miss, but huge impact when they make contact guys. Like, he's going to be compared to Judge. He's going to be compared to Basayo now. He's going to be compared, you know, to some of these other big dudes. And what's going to define him probably is swing decisions and ability to cover the top of the zone and fastballs. Oh, look at Timmy Lowe out there. Timmy Lowe Castro, my guy. But so far, I'm seeing a pretty much a line drive stroke. I mean, granted, these pitches are basically middle. Let's see a home run. But I don't know. This is like something that the Giants hadn't had in a long time as a real power threat. Now they have Devers and Adames now hit some homers. And, you know, I'm just thinking you go back the last couple decades, they've been searching for power guys. They had Brandon Belt for a while. This would be a really big deal if they could get a guy who could add some thump to their lineup in there. And I think they're going to give him every chance. Ooh, so there's a changeup that he demolishes into right. Let's watch that again. So, yeah, I mean, look, he's a guy who's just going to have to touch it. You know, he's not going to have to do much offensively. I think defensively, that's where the issue is and why he's not rated higher. He's going to have to be a first baseman DH type. So it's going to be cool to watch him get a little bit of a run here early in this season. Here's another home run on a cutter. Ooh, I like that. That was up in and he pulled the hands in and kept them tight. Geez, Reno's such a box. That ball went over everything. That ball went into the trees. What I meant by that is look at this pitch location. It's actually a pretty good cutter location. And I would expect with the size of him, a lot of people are going to try to go in here to set him up for things. But the fact that he was able to pull the hands in that tight is a good sign. And obviously all he has to do is touch it with the barrel in the air to pull side. And it's going to be a home run almost every time. So I don't know. I didn't really get much of an opinion on him from the regular season when he was up with the Giants. But some of these videos I do like his setup. It's a relatively quiet load. I don't know. He's an interesting guy to look at. What's his spray chart looking like? So this is what I wanted to see too. So he does use the whole field, which is what you have to do if you're this size. That's going to give you a better chance. And I'm pretty high on his hitting ability. I do think overall we're going to find out in the big leagues what he struggles with, and they're going to attack it relentlessly. They're going to pitch him up in the zone with fastballs. They're going to challenge him like that. They're going to challenge him with a lot of changeups and splits, try to get him rolling over. It's going to be fascinating the first time through, but you are going to see some balls hitting the bay for sure. That's the type of ability he has, and all he has to do is touch it. And that's basically what it is. If we go to their roster resource, he's penciled in right now as DH. And I'm pretty sure he's going to get that spot, and he's going to get a lot of run here. There he is in the 6th spot, right between Helio Ramos and Casey Schmidt, who I just saw had surgery. But yeah, great place to be. Not a lot of people are handed the keys. I would love to see him get moved up in a spot where he has some protection behind him and he gets some good pitches to hit. But I don't know. We're going to get a very good viewpoint of this player because he's basically in the big leagues from here on out. So we're going to get a good viewpoint on him, and we'll learn more as we go. All right, next prospect up on the list is number 13, Dodger prospect. Is this a Jose or is it Josue? I don't know how to pronounce this yet, but DePaula, and he's an outfielder. This is one of the 3 big-time outfield prospects that the Dodgers have, along with Zyhir Hopoe and Mike Sirota. 3 of their top position prospects are all outfielders. So this is a little bit why they might be thinking about making some adjustments with their outfield mix a little bit, knowing that they have some big pieces coming. All right, here's the bio real quick. 20 years old, lefty, 6'3", 185, 60 hit tool, 60 power, 45 run, 50 field, 50 arm, 40 field. So interesting. The scouting grades make me think that this guy is a straight masher. Dodgers officials routinely describe DePaula as the most advanced young hitter their organization has had in years. Second cousin of former NBA guards Marbury and Telfair, born in Brooklyn, represent before moving to the DR. Great move. Gets signed at 16. Love that. Might do that with Archer. And signed there for $397,000, 2022. Hit 268 with 10 homers and 2 Class A stops at age 19, leading the system in on base and posting 136 weighted runs created plus. Few teenagers can match his combination of swing decisions and exit velocity. So he's got good control of the zone, but also hits the ball hard. Let's see the stats from this past season. 2025, 2 teams. So he was hurt quite a bit and never really got his season off the ground. Only played 98 games in High A this year and only got to Tulsa for 4 games at the end of the year. So he'll probably open in Double A and he will keep moving. But the on base already pops out. Career 405 on base in the minors. And if you look at the strikeout to walk ratio, this is something we've seen a lot with the guys at the top. Swing decisions are valued more than anybody now. So you think it's Josue? Okay, so we're going to go with that. Josue DePaula. I don't know. Double A will be a big test. Obviously, he's got to get to the upper levels. There's a big separation from the lower levels to the upper levels, but you got to love this strikeout to walks. I mean, this past year, looks like between the 2 teams, 82 walks, only 91 strikeouts, and 32 bags for a guy with below average speed. That's a little surprising. All right, let's find him on Prospect Savant. Josue. He's not going to be on here because he didn't get above A ball. All right, so we're going to have to go back to here, and we'll find some video here. All right, let's watch the 3-hit game first, and I'll let the ads go away real quick. Ottavino family, known Dominican legends. It's true. At one point, we're moving. We're going to be in La Romana, chilling. Archer's going to be training in the Dominican Winter League with the boys, and then when he's old enough, we can get him signed, and I'll be his Buscone. You know what I'm saying? All right, here we go. So let's see it. A little taking it the other way. So we're looking at an all-around hitter here with a really good eye at the plate is what we've been told. I like how he's in his legs. Ooh, that must have been a 2-strike approach. Yep, 2-2. Note how there's no leg kick here. I want to rewind to the second swing. So this is him planted in the ground, throwing the hands, using the whole field. Love that. Love that. Oh, he gets this guy hosed at the plate, but that's okay. And then let's see what this 3rd hit's going to be in this game. All left on left. Stays inside it. Bad defense. He's going to get a bunch of cool stuff there. All right, let's watch a 3-run homer. Again, we're going to hit another thing here. Thanks for the Horsey Way. Well, thanks for the updates. I need these updates in my life. These are important. All right, let me back this up and full screen it for you because this is a dinger from Mr. DePaula here. Ooh, 2 strikes. So you see he's got a 2-strike approach already. That's probably why, part of the reason why. That's the function of how he gets to his low strikeout totals. He's got a great 2-strike approach. Obviously, he can still pack a punch, though. Trying to think what this swing reminds me of, and I'm not sure yet, but it's a really good swing. Little two-hand finish, little simple through the zone. It's one of the better swings that we've seen so far. So that is DePaula. He is number 13, an outfielder. Should be coming probably sometime in the next 2 or 3 years. He'll probably be in the upper levels of the minors to start off this year. Everybody's saying that they like his swing, pretty swing. His swing reminds me of Yelich. I see Yelich as a little bit more tall initially and then getting into his legs, but he starts in his legs pretty crouched. I don't know. Really good hitter, though. I honestly, I mean, I know we don't speak this name very much, but his swing reminded me a little bit of Wander Franco. So I'll give that. Gonna have a verbal commitment at 10 like everyone else. Yes. We are available for purchase. All right, number 14, Bubba Chandler. We saw him in the big leagues a little bit. He was the 72nd overall pick in the 21 draft, a third-round pick by the Pirates, 6'3", 218. They went over slot to sign him. They were banking on athleticism. He was a two-way prospect who could have played football at Clemson. And now he is effectively just a pitcher. He did hit and pitch for a little bit, but now he is just a pitcher, and he throws very hard, and he's got a serious edge to him. And there's a lot to like about him. Here were the numbers this year. So after an incredible 2024, where he had a 308 in the minors through a couple stops, last year he opened the year at AAA. He ends up going 5-6 with a 405 and 100 innings. He did punch out 121 in that span, but walked a troubling 53. And 95 hits is good, but not great for a 1.48 whip. So he gets promoted at a very young age, 23, despite the fact that he wasn't actually knocking the door down as much as people would have thought in AAA. And I have to be honest a little bit, when I watched Bubba Chandler pitch for the Pirates the first few times, I wasn't sure that I liked him as much as some of the other big-time guys that had come up. I think that he's got tremendous potential, like physical potential. I mean, he's literally averaging 99 with the fastball. I questioned the slider a little bit. To me, it didn't look like a great pitch. And I did like the changeup, although it's got a little bit of a carry to it. So I think the big question marks for Bubba moving forward, as this is what he did at the big league level, 4-1 with a 402. Actually did a lot better with his walks in the big leagues than he had in the minors. We saw the 50-something walks in the 100 innings. I mean, that's flat out bad. But then in the big leagues, he only had a 3.2% walk rate. So hard to tell what his actual level of command and control is, but you love a 3.2% walk rate. You love a 30.3% whiff rate, which is a good sign, even on that fastball getting whiff, and 99 miles an hour. So we got a comment here. Walks came in a few bad months. Look at the month-by-month breakdown in the minors. Well, I'm too lazy to do that, but I will definitely take your word for it. Let me go and see what it was saying about him in the minors. God, so annoying. Some of these searches, man, I swear. Bubba Chandler. So here's his minor league prospect savant. Yeah, and it has his walk rate at slightly below average, so nothing crazy red flag. Honestly, I thought he would have more chase than this, only 53% in the minors. Considering how much stuff he had, I would have thought he would have got more chase than this. But the whiffs are good. It's just two concerns. Like when you bring a guy who's this electric up to the big leagues and he does it with a power arsenal, I think a lot of it when you're looking at him is really a matter of, number one, does he understand yet how to pitch? Like what his sequences are, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are, how to get his contact outs. And number two, does he have enough game to become unpredictable? Because no matter how good you are, if you're predictable in the big leagues, you will get caught up. And ultimately, that's what I worry about with him just a little bit. 54% fastball, 23% changeup, 18% slider, 6% curve. So not terrible overall, but the slider didn't really have as much effectiveness when I watched it. Let's see what the actual grades were for the season. So actually, it's saying the slider was quite effective. I didn't like the shape of it, to be honest. And that the fastball was the potential downfall. Okay, so this is a tale as old as time. Guy comes up, he's throwing 99. Teams are, keyed in on the 99, and they're hitting the 99, but he's undressing them with the other pitches. I loved his changeup. You look at the results on the changeup; they were fantastic. Holy cow. 080 batting average, 110 WOBA, 39.6% whiff rate. Even expected batting averages are tremendous. So really, he's got to find a way to hide his fastball shape a little bit. I know that it's a pretty good pitch in terms of shape, which we got to find here. Yeah, 17.3 on the fastball, 8.9 on the arms. That's similar to like Cody Ponce's shape that we just went over from the KBO, except this is with the MLB ball. So, you know, what can I say? He's got a good fastball shape, but it got hit really hard. And I definitely like to watch him continue to progress. I think he's got a long way to go, but I think that he's going to get a good run this year, and he's around some great pitchers with some great know-how. Just put him with Skeens. Hopefully he gets some osmosis, and this pitch plot's looking a lot more diverse pretty soon, and his contact starts to clean up. And, you know, hopefully the velocity and the physical attributes continue to stay right where they are, and then we have a monster on our hands. But exciting for the Pirates. This is a big prospect. I do think he's a little more raw than some of the other guys that got called up. But, you know, time will tell how quickly he can improve. And one thing I do love about him is his confidence. You know, got great confidence. So I love that. You'd much rather have a cocky guy than a timid guy when they first come up. Jay Rose is saying, give him the fastball triangle. Yeah, I mean, you look at it right now, a cutter could be another possibility here, or even a sinker. Just give him two more options to pair off that four seam with different variations. And then you kind of go from there. He doesn't have a ton of stuff going left or a ton of depth on that breaking ball, but I don't know. It's the beginnings of something, and it's just the very beginning, so be curious to watch him develop. All right, that's it for Bubba. Mr. Bubba Chandler. And now we are up to the number 1 pick in last year's draft, Eli Willits. So Reggie Willits, his old man, was an outfield coach for the Yankees when I was there. He played in the big leagues for the Angels. He was a very good outfield coach, fundamentally sound guy. And then his son, Eli, ends up becoming the number 1 overall pick in the draft. Very, very cool. Nationals picked him up. The package with this guy is basically, it's going to be no tool that super jumps out. Like there's no, oh, I touch it and it's a home run, or I'm the fastest guy in the world, but he's going to be good at everything, incredibly fundamental, and a really, you know, he's a baseball rat, basically. And that's what it says here in the scouting report. Willits comes from a baseball family. Reggie played in the big leagues, coached with the Yankees, and then he's now the associate head coach at Oklahoma, where Eli Willits' brother Jackson is the star sophomore there. So one thing that I saw that was cool for Eli is he got to play in a lot of like fall Oklahoma games. So he got to play versus older competition, better competition, and kind of sharpen his skills versus guys that were supposed to be better than him, and yet he dominated anyway, and I think scouts saw that, and that really kind of shot him up the draft. Switch hitter, better from the left side, but very polished, good bat-to-ball skills. Here are the grades. Hit grade 60, power 45, which makes sense. He's not a very big guy, 6'1", 180. Runs at a 60 clip, arm 55, fielding 55. So this is a really solid ball player. In the mold of a lot of high first rounders. All around type of player, good defense, good baseball IQ. And he only played in 15 minor league games so far. He hit an even 300, no home runs, 7 walks, 12 strikeouts. Not really much to see there, but he's just getting started. He's a long ways away. He'll be a fun guy to watch come up. Let's watch his 3-hit pro debut after the ad here. All right, we're almost there. All right, hold on. Let me back that up so we can see it all. All right, there's the setup. From that standpoint, that he looked like he had Lindor's swing. This is going to be him stealing second, which he would have been hosed. Maybe not full Lindor, but a similar setup initially. Pretty loose. I'm also getting a little bit of a Stephen Drew vibes with that swing. I'll go back to that swing. This was a nice swing here. The one he rides out. Yeah, that's a nice swing. Little two-hand finish. I don't know. Excited to watch him. Anytime you're the 1-1 pick, you know, you're the first overall pick in the draft. You know, you're somebody that needs to be watched. He's very young. I think it'll take him a little time to get up. Probably play this year in high A. And if he's lucky, he gets to double A, and then he starts getting closer. But extremely young player, too, which is part of the reason why he got drafted so high. 17 years old right now. So the models are going to love that. 17 years old at the time of drafted. Very, very good. Very, very good. So many second and third generation top prospects hanging around the big league clubhouses. Yeah, look, this is a major advantage. All that institutional knowledge gets passed right down to you. You get to watch the best go about their business. You learn work habits. You learn what matters and doesn't matter. You don't panic about things that don't matter. And it's a really good place to be. And excited to watch Eli develop. He's probably a ways away, but very excited to watch him. All right, next up is Andrew Painter, Philadelphia Phillies. All right, now this guy was basically going to be in the big leagues at 20 years old or even 19 years old, then immediately got Tommy John in a spring training. Has electric stuff. Some of the stuff has changed with him. The arm angle changed a little bit. The shapes on his pitch changed a little bit. He didn't have a ton of success last year, but this guy's still looked at as a real deal pitcher. He was the 13th overall pick in the 21 draft, 6'7", 215. Here are the grades: 70 fastball, 50 curveball, 60 slider, 55 changeup, and 65 control. That's really, really good. His express train to the big leagues was derailed by an elbow injury and subsequent Tommy John that kept him off a competitive mound for all of 23 and 24. Highly anticipated return to action in the fall league. Did not disappoint, and there was only a little rust as the right-hander displayed his elite level of stuff over the course of the 6 outings. He touched 100 that year. Anyway, this year he went back to AAA. Let's go look at the stats from this year, which was a little more rocky. He did pitch 106 and 2/3 in AAA with a 5.4 ERA and 22 starts, 106 innings, 111 strikeouts, 46 walks, 1.55 whip. So, look, the numbers weren't good this year, but I think this was like a return to action. AAA is no joke, especially with the ABS, the way that they do it down there. It really takes off a lot of the top of the zone. No doubt, this is a blue chip guy. Phillies are going to get him in the rotation, fairly certain, pretty soon. And I think that, Caleb Cotham and these guys are going to see what they have with him going forward. I did in my Discord the other day. We had some interesting data that had been thrown out there about how his fastball had changed a little bit. His arm angle came down a little bit, and I think a lot of that was probably a function of trying to keep him healthy. Because when he was hiked up a little high, that's when he was having his arm troubles, and now he's a little bit lower. It did change his shape, but the velocity's there. He probably, with a little bit of a lower angle, has a better opportunity to create more east-west movement, and those are all really good places to be. As you approach the big leagues, it's going to give him a chance to add more and more stuff and not just be like a 1 or 2 pitch pitcher. So it'll be an interesting guy to watch. All right, let's watch this highlight. That looked like a tight slider there for a strikeout. Ooh, that's a nice slider there. Another one there. So it's a gyro slider. I don't know what that was. That might have been a changeup. But you see, he's a big guy. He can leverage his size to get over the ball or also get good extension. I think it's a combination of both. And obviously he's sitting, mid to upper 90s, touching 100. So just on the raw baseball-y, stuff grades, scouting him back there, checking the guy out with the radar gun. He checks all the boxes. He's a huge body. He's got a lot of pitches. He throws easy gas. Lots to like. Andrew Painter. And he is the prospect number 16 in baseball right now. So that was a difference. That breaking ball we had just seen. Now he throws a cutter-like gyro slider in the upper 80s, replacing what had been more of a sweeper. So that's what we saw there. Those guys thought they were swinging at fastballs, and they were swinging over sliders. All right, number 17, another number 1 overall pick, the Australian Travis Bazzana, Oregon State product from Australia. This guy's a gritty type second baseman, currently 23 years old, 6 foot, 199, so a small little package. And he was an absolute beast in college, which allowed him to be the number 1 pick. Here are his grades: 65 hit, 55 power, 60 run, 50 field, 50 arm, and overall a 60. He's a little scrappy little guy. Let's go look at his prospect savant. as this is like a perfect fit, I feel like with the Guardians, just the type of team that they are. He's going to probably put the ball in play and all sorts of stuff. All right, so this is his numbers from this past year on Prospect Savant. 75th percentile ex-WOBA. Wow, 13th percentile expected batting average. Not expecting to see that. Exit velo, not that high. Yet, still got some barrels, but then look at that walk percentage. 99th percentile in walk, 98th percentile in chase. So at a very basic level. Bazzana, B-A-Z-Z-A-N-A-A-N-A-A. I don't know. Excited to watch a guy who already has this advanced approach come up. Now, I'm a little concerned at some of these metrics that he's not going to impact as well, but he's also not going to be an easy out with his swing decisions being already so on point. Pull in the air only 22%, swing percentage 6%, so extremely patient approach. Extremely patient approach. Above average speed. I don't see him as being much of a power guy, but more of a flea at the plate, which every team seems to need. Let's go ahead and watch, see if we can grab some Bazzana video here. Here he is, Mr. Travis Bazzana. He's so good, and he got injured this year with an oblique. He's like super clutch. I do think that's like always been the report on him. Oh man, it's a dynamic swing. I'm surprised he doesn't have more exit velo with that vicious swing. Now maybe the oblique held him back, but you see this stance. There's a lot of like nervous energy, fast twitch in it, but he's also kind of hunchy. Another guy, a tough guy to throw strikes to. I think that speaks to his walk rate as well as his ability to control the zone. But I don't know. I got to watch more. I'd love to watch him against the best pitchers. I'm excited to watch this guy get up there. He's going to fit in well with the guards. Trying to think what that... It's like an Eric Sogard, but with like much better tools, like a much bigger body and more powerful. Like in terms of strength and stuff. He's a little ball of muscle, this kid. So there's a nice swing for an Oppo triple. He didn't do great at the beginning of the year, but towards the end of the year, he was on fire. They got him to pull the ball more, and that's what strained the oblique. Interesting, Spectre. Yeah, I mean, no doubt, like, for this guy, it looks like, to me, based off the metrics, for him to tap into his power, he's going to have to pull the ball. So they're going to have to get him out and around some balls a little earlier, beating some balls to the spot. But at the same time, I don't know. I don't think he's there to necessarily be a home run hitter for you that much. Oof, smack this one. Damn, off his own face. Damn, see you later, ball. Nice swing. All right, we got another home run here. I don't think he's a big power guy, Jay. I think he'll have some pop, and you know, the ball's been flying a lot differently in Cleveland lately, especially to right, so he'll hit some homers, but I don't think that's the main part of his game. Although, of course, we're watching him hit 2 home runs here. Man, look at that wall out there in wherever that is. At Columbus? Never been there, so that's pretty cool. I don't know. I'm just excited. Every time I've heard him talk or anything, he seems like a very determined, very serious, very gritty ball player, and I just like that. You know, I like that, so I'm curious to watch it play. But also, have you noticed that a lot of these guys with the great hit tools have been a little bit shorter? Not all of them, but we're not even out of the top 20 yet, and most of these guys have been a little bit on the shorter side, that are a little quicker to the ball, can handle balls up, and that's really been the hit tool. So this is the 3rd home run we're about to watch him hit. Man. I don't know. Another exciting guy. Excited to see him come up for Cleveland. They seem to not really miss too often, at least with getting these guys to be contributors, and we'll just see what his ceiling is. You know, it'll be interesting to watch. If he starts hitting homers, he'll stop being a Guardians type of player. Yeah, well, I mean, Jose Ramirez does it, so he's on it. Like, he's a very, very smart player. He preaches drive line hard. And bro is electric. Like, watch him pimp that one. I saw he stopped at first and did like a fist pump before going. So, you know, just an electric player who plays with enthusiasm. So Max Clark and Kevin McGonigal combo. Yep, J Rose is on the same vibe right there. He sees it. All right, it's 1:22. I probably got to take a break here in a couple minutes to get Whitlock in here. All right, let's move on to Luis Pena. This is a pitcher. This is an infielder. I have never heard of him before. This is the second one to go along with Made. So let's take a look at Luis Pena. Righty infielder. Hit 60 tool, power 50, run 70, arm 55, field 50, overall 60. That's a good grade. 5'11", 185. Let's look at the stats from this year. He played in both ace stops, hit a combined 270, 335, 422 for a 757 OPS combined, 101 hits, 34 walks, 68 strikeouts, 44 bags. So speed is a big part of this guy's game. I don't know. He's still pretty much at the lower levels. It's going to be interesting to watch him play. Bat to ball skills are impressive. Young age, 8.2% K rate. He knows how it will and will expand the zone a bit to get to that contact. Only hit the 1 home run last season, but his exit velocity has blossomed with his move to his full season ball. Ample speed. So it's a speed game, probably a defensive game. They have him only as a 50 actually on defense. So it's a hit tool and it's a hit and run tool. Contact with some speed is his game. This is Luis Pena. See if we can find anything on this dude. Well, considering he was only an A ball, I don't know if we're going to get a lot out of this guy. Oh, here we go. Well, we have a double. We can get a double here. Honestly, like this is the type of prospect that it's so hard to scout on video. Like, you're just not going to get a feel for him unless you watch like a whole series, see him how he affects the game with his legs, because there's not a lot of running highlights. But between him and Made, they have two middle infield type prospects coming, both with speed and hit tools. It's an exciting place to be. Young Dominican guys, hopefully they can get up there at a young age and get themselves going at that young age. I mean, the earlier you can get in and get that brain into a veteran mindset is even better. Although I have to say, I'm not in love with his profile compared to some of these other guys. He's on here for a reason, right? You wouldn't be creeping up this high if there wasn't some underlying stuff, and I think the speed is a big part of that. So that's Luis Pena. I don't really have a whole lot to say about him. He's a tough guy to scout on here. The K's at higher are concerning, but he's still so young, and it's a really small sample. Yeah, obviously he's here for a while, so we'll just go ahead and we'll take a little pin and we'll put him on the board and we'll say we're going to follow this guy throughout the year. And I agree, the swing did remind me a little bit of Luis Angel Acuna, but I don't really know. I don't really know how it's going to be. I don't think anybody knows, so we're going to wait and see how he gets to the higher levels. All right, I think we only have time right now to hit Ethan Holliday, and maybe we'll do some more depending on how long Whitlock stays on, but we'll make that determination when we need to. Okay, number 19, Ethan Holliday. So, quick story. This is a kid I've known, since 2010. I used to shag BP in the outfield in St. Louis with Jackson and Ethan Holliday when I was teammates with Matt the first time around. They were little at that point. We knew they loved baseball, but they were babies. Then you fast forward to 2018, my last year with the Rockies. Matt comes back to us. These kids are now in high school or middle school, and they're at the field with him every day, and they're banging in the batting cage, and they're raking, and they look amazing. And I'm like, holy shit, these guys are both pros for sure. Just a matter of how high they're going to get drafted. Turns out they get drafted first overall, and Jackson Holliday, and then Ethan number 4 overall. And I have to say, I like Ethan's mentality a lot. He's the younger brother. He's always been in competition mode with his brother. I think he has a higher upside with the bat, although also a much lower floor. It's a bigger swing, probably a little bit less of an athlete in the field. He's a lot taller, a little more of a body to move around, but the power potential is there. So let's see what it says here. 6'4", 210, 4th overall by the Rock Show. which was the easiest pick to project in that draft ever, given that, his dad was a first-round pick by the Rockies as well, so makes sense. They're a very family-oriented situation. Ever since Jackson went number 1 overall, he has told people that his younger brother is better than he was at the same age. Ethan is more physical and more powerful and more closely resembles their father, who was a 7-time All-Star. Both scuffled on their showcase entering their draft years, but while Jackson was considered second-round talent at that point, Ethan was a leading candidate to be taken number 1 overall. He ends up going number 4 overall. He is a guy who projects to have 35 home run pop, and that's kind of what you're looking for, as well as hopefully he can stay at a premium position. So he played 18 games this year at Fresno, and A-ball hit 239, 357, 380, hit 2 home runs, struck out a ton though, 33 strikeouts in 18 games and only 71 at-bats, 33 strikeouts. This has been the number one concern with Ethan so far, is the overall amount of swing and miss. Now, I don't know how he's going to be developed within the Rockies system, because I think that's all getting worked out now. DePodesta is going to rework the whole system, and I think they're going to be a different team in terms of how their prospects are developed moving forward. So we just have to wait and see. But this guy's just got such big potential. He's the rare player who really wants to be in Colorado, I think, and he's going to be an exciting guy to watch. Let's see if we can get a quick little view on like him swinging it for a second here. And then we'll take our break and we'll try to get Garrett in here and we'll chat with him for a few minutes. So I'm just waiting on the ad to load. Love Ethan's swing, going to be a big comeback. Should have went number 1 in that draft. So he has got huge upside. I think people got scared off because he had swing and miss even in high school, even while being the Oklahoma Player of the Year. But you see the pop here. I mean, this is a big boy poke. This is a no-doubter to deep right center, basically center. And, he's a big guy, but he is in his legs a little bit in his setup. I like the setup. There's the load. It's a little toe tap. I think the whole thing with him, and believe me, one of the reasons why I love Ethan so much is because I know the family and I know how hard these guys work and how smart they are about their work and how they fix their weaknesses. And I would expect that to be literally no different with Ethan going forward. I think he's going to continue to cut down on his holes. The swing and miss will come back. He's one of the few players that I am very confident will improve that. I think usually when you start with this much swing and miss, it's pretty tough to make that tangibly way better. But I think considering the know-how of the family, the work ethic, I think he can get it into a respectable range where his contact ability and the ability that he has to impact the ball will play. And I also think one thing that I like about him is he does have some defensive value. He's actually a pretty decent infielder. I think he might have to go to third. But compared with like some of the guys that are ahead of him on the list, where he might end up in a similar power profile, like a Eldridge or a Bazzana, he's going to have more defensive value. So in a way, I really like his profile a lot, and I'm excited to watch him develop. All right, well, we only got through 19 right now. I know I got to do Zyhir Hopoe and Carson Benge, but maybe we'll do that after. And we're going to take a break here and come back with Garrett Whitlock, and we'll chat with him for a little bit in a second. Let me just answer this one question. Is it weird that Matt Holliday has 2 left-handed batting sons? I bet he probably did that on purpose. Lefty hitters probably a little more valuable overall. So not a big surprise there if they decided to go that route. All right, I'm going to put us on mute. I'm going to throw on the loading screen again for a bit, and then I'll come back with Garrett Whitlock once I grab him. All right, I'll be back in a little bit. See ya. All right, guys, we're about to bring Mr. Garrett Whitlock in here in a moment. Let me just get him pasted into the browser. and then we will have him and we'll chat here for a second. All right. All right, here we go. Hey, G, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
It's good. It's good to see you.
Dude, good to see you. Nice and cold up there in New York.
Oh my God, I think we're in for a tough winter. It says it's only 30 when I woke up today, but my car was like frozen shut when I was driving the kids to school, and it's only December 3rd, so I think we're in for it big time.
Golly, yeah, that's why I don't stay up north for winters.
Are you guys in Florida these days or in Alabama? Where are you these days?
Yeah, we're in Hoover, Alabama.
Nice, nice. I love it. Keeping it local.
Yeah, you know how it is. I had to come back south.
Yes, yes. All right. So I really just want to just ask you a few things. Obviously, the last time we spoke was in spring training when I was still trying to be on the Red Sox last year. Before that didn't pan out, but I guess that's where we'll start. Number one, I know that you went to the team last year and you kind of talked to them about how you'd rather go to the bullpen. You had been kind of in between, starting, relieving there for a few years. I was curious the thought process there a little bit from your end and your perspective on that.
Yeah, it actually I probably went to AC the end of 24 while I was still rehabbing TJ and everything, and it was one of those where I kind of was talking to my agent, talking to my wife and everything, and just was like, you know what, like I'm tired of being hurt, I'm tired of being in pain, and I'm not saying that starting was the reason that was happening, but I felt like my body was more ready for a relieving role, and like I've held up really well in those roles and everything, and so I went to AC and like. He was like, "Hey man, like I need some more guys down there in the bullpen," and I was like, "Hey, put me there. Like, let me be a guy for you. Let's stop going back and forth and back and forth, and let's nail this down and go head forth with that."
Yeah, I remember back in 21, obviously rookie year, you're Rule 5, you make the team. At the beginning, you're kind of in like a multi-inning role, and you had been a starter before that in your career. But you hit the ground running that year, I believe. I mean, how long did you have zero for that year? What was it, like a month and a half, 2 months to start off that year? That was incredible. And I just remember, us out there in the bullpen, we're like, hey, like, don't forget about starting. Starting is like the ultimate, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes it doesn't always work out perfectly. Sometimes guys are more meant for the bullpen. I was a guy like that. It's a mentality thing. It's a physicality thing. But it seems to me like you're just like a fish in water when you go back out to that bullpen. No matter what the situation is, you like being a possibility for every game. And I wonder if that mental part of it, fires you up in a kind of a different way than waiting around for every fifth day.
Yeah, I remember talking to Evo. Like when in 22 when they moved me to the rotation, I was like, man, like it's cool, but this kind of sucks just sitting around for 4 days. Like at least like when you're out there, the phone can ring and your name can be called any single day, so you feel like you're a part of the team. But those 4 days, you kind of feel like, all right, well, I'm just a bump on a log today. And if I sucked my last start, then it's like, all right, now I'm just feel like I'm dead weight for 4 days. So yeah, it feels good to be in the bullpen and feel like you can make a difference each and every day. And I love that aspect of it and go out there and freaking dominate.
Yeah, it's so cool. And speaking of your bullpen this year, you and Chapman formed a just ridiculous 8-9 this year for the most part. What was it like watching his season? I mean, he had that one stretch where he was like 50 batters in a row, like no hits. What did you learn by watching Chappie this year?
I think the biggest thing I learned is, like consistency and like obviously that man didn't have many struggles this year, but even when he did struggle, like it was just like we talked to him, me and Weiser talked to him like, hey man, like how do you just come in like the next day after like a blown save and just like be like, all right, we're good. And he's just like he told us he was just like Poppy because I know they ain't not gonna do it again today. And so it's like, all right. And so, just kind of watching like how he goes about that, and it's just like, hey, you know what, like I'm gonna go about today the same way I go about yesterday, no matter what happened yesterday. And I think that was something that was really cool to lean on. And once I kind of took that mentality, there's a lot more days where good stuff happens than bad.
Yeah, it's so crazy because when you're younger, you tend to take everything one day, like everything's a big deal all the time. And when you get to his position in the game, which is crazy. He's now, let's see, 863 games in. Fair to say, even though he's had Hall of Fame level of success, he's probably also had 100 really bad days at the ballpark, you know? So you get good at failing as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean that's the I remember in 21, the first thing Sale said to me was like, "Hey, don't be afraid to suck." You know, because he's just like, if you're so worried about failing, you're never gonna actually like have time to focus on succeeding. And so like when you try and look at it that way, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's totally true. I mean, that short mindset, especially in the bullpen, you know, I think a lot of times, like as a starter, if you have a tough outing, you kind of use that as motivation over the next 4 days. But like as a reliever, you know, you might have to be back in there the next day. So that's a little bit of a shift. Like you have to really get over it a little bit quicker. Instead of using it to fuel you, you really have to kind of put it behind you in a different kind of way. Um, what speaking of Vivaldi, I feel like he's kind of the gold standard of hard work of any pitcher I've ever seen. And this year, Crochet was somebody I was also very impressed with in spring. And I was, for one, a little skeptical and worried that he was going to be able to, you know, handle the workload. But he must have been working his tail off all year, a la Evaldi, to do quite what he did this year. So I'm wondering if you could give us a little insight on Crochet and the work that you saw him do this year.
Yeah, I mean, what you saw in spring is what he did for the whole 162. I mean, like the attention to detail in his routine, the attention to detail, and not only just like throwing program, but like arm care, lifting, everything like that you saw in spring. Like that's what he has. He owns every bit of his routine. Like I never really saw him be like, hey, like what do you think about like tweaking this, or what do you think about tweaking that? It was just like, hey, this works for me, and whether I'm like getting crushed, which also never really happened this year, or like I'm shoving, I'm gonna do this. And then like he would tweak with like Behan, like, all right, like, hey, you know, I'm feeling it a little bit more like here or there. Like, how can we recover better? And so like the way that he owned everything, like was very Nate-esque, where it's just like, hey, like this is my thing, I'm gonna stick to it, and like you can't convince me otherwise.
I was taken aback right away by his presence in the room in spring training. I mean, this was his first year with the club, got traded over. But even the people that were with him with the White Sox, even of his younger days, you could tell that he was he was respected on a little bit of a different level, and I think a lot of that comes from work ethic and demeanor. And he's just an amazing guy to watch because he's so stoic out there on the mound. Nothing rattles him. You know, Judge hits a homer off him one time, and he just kind of like rubs it off like nothing, attacks the next guy with that fastball. Um, I don't know. I was just really, really impressed with his. I don't know, just the overall presence he had in the room. Um, do you feel like people were feeding off that energy all year with him?
100%. I mean, it's easy to forget. I know you just had his page up. How old is he? 25?
Yeah, he is 26 now. Yeah.
Okay, 26. Yeah, it's hard to like. It's sometimes like hard to remember that like, oh wait, he's only 26 years old, because you like. I mean, granted, we had a younger-ish clubhouse, but like you kind of respected him, like with the stories in Bregman's, where it's like, hey man, like like you think this guy's a 32, 33-year-old guy that's like had 9 years in the show already, and like he's one of the guys in the clubhouse, and like he is a leader. Like it's cool to see like him at 26. I mean, granted, like he's doing the dang thing, so obviously he's a leader. But it was cool to just kind of see like, you know, I mean, like Justin Wilson, who's got 13 years in the show, leaning on Crochet to be like, hey man, like what are you seeing? Like what do you got? And so it's like you got guys like that that lean on like Crochet. It's cool to see, and like cool to see like how he kind of picked up the pitchers in the clubhouse and said, hey, this is where we're going, and I'm taking you there.
Yeah, I could feel it. It was palpable. I was like, man, you don't see a lot of 25, 26-year-olds command a room quite like this. So when I saw that, I was like, ooh, this is more than just like, oh, this guy has good stuff. Like there's a lot more substance to that. All right, so I wanted to ask you about one pitching adjustment over the past few years, and then I want to get your take on some WBC stuff. So when I played with you, you were sinker and changeup, right? The slider was a work in progress. But in the recent years, the slider's taken a big step forward. It's become one of your most effective pitches. This past year, your slider had positive 8 run value and was your second most thrown pitch. So, can you talk a little bit about the evolution of that pitch? Also, being that you're a pronator, it's a little bit of a different scenario to like maybe get the action that you're looking for. But you found it over the past few years and turned what was a negative into a positive. And I want to get your breakdown on that a little bit.
Yeah. So when we were teammates in 21, it was more of like a breaking ball, like slurvish. If you remember, it was like 77, 79. It was just kind of like loopy and breaking ball. And then the whole like evolution of sweeper came into thing, and like so like they're like, hey, you throw a two seam, you should throw a sweeper too. And that wasn't really that good because I'm not a supinator. Like I wasn't good at doing that. And then it was cool. Like Andrew Bailey and Justin Willard were like, hey, like, what do you think on this like gyro slider? And this was in spring of 24. They were like, what do you think about this gyro slider? Like, we're gonna spike like a slider grip. Yes, exactly like you're holding it, and you're gonna throw it like your fastball. I was like, all right, sweet. And so we tried it out in catch play in spring training, and they were like, hey, like this has got some good movement. It was like, so it's funny. Me and Bales always argue that I always say X coordinates and then Y coordinates, like we're taught in math.
Yeah.
So, but like apparently in baseball, you say vert and then horizontal.
Yeah.
So my horizontal was like 0 to -1, and my vert was like -5, -6, and it was staying at like 84. And we were like, all right, like that can be like an actual pitch, like. And so in spring training, they were like, hey, like let's really use this. And this was in 24. And I remember it was a spring training game against the Twins. It was actually a backfield game, and Matt Wallner came over to hit against me at JetBlue.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was basically spamming it because I wanted to work on it so much. And I remember like he just kept looking at me like, when did you get this pitch? Like, what is this? Like, I never talked to him about it, but it was just fun kind of like throwing it against him because he's like, yo, what the heck?
Yeah, this isn't you.
And so it kind of evolved that way. And then obviously I got hurt in 24. And so coming into 25, it was one of those where Bales was like, hey, like, I think we really should lean in on this. And I was working with Tyler Zombro as well. And he was like, listen, like that pitch for you is going to be huge because you're a pronator. You don't have to supinate to get to this pitch. Like you can throw this and like the quote unquote death ball, or like I just call it a downer. Like that's what we started throwing more and more, and we used that solely as a slider, the sweeper, and just said like, hey, we're gonna roll with this. And now when it gets bad, it'll have a little bit more horizontal than it's supposed to, but for the most part, I try to keep it like that 0 to -3 horizontal.
I love it because your game is so good already with contact with your sinker and your changeup, having that horizontal action to it, plus your extension and your velocity and your command and all those types of things. And then this pitch, the death ball or the downer, I mean, it averaged -6 vertical break this past year. So that's heavy drop. That's going to get that chase. Guys are going to be, you have now that area below the zone that you can bounce balls on the plate, gives you a whole bunch of a different look to it. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of it. I think it's really stepped your game up quite a bit. I'm impressed that you were able to add that because it's not so easy for a pronator to create a great breaking ball, and you did that. That's really awesome to see. And I think it helps your game, like I mentioned a little bit too, because if everything is arm side all the time, and even your sinker, let's be honest, has a little bit more lift than an average sinker because of the way that your hand comes through, creating depth is a huge level up. And they really found something with this gyro slider that you have. It's really good. Plus, also, another thing that's unique about you too is oftentimes your changeup is your 2 speeds down pitch, whereas a lot of people will throw more of a power changeup closer to the fastball, and your slider will be now more of the power pitch. So it's an interesting little trade-off of like the 2 pitches that have similar action are way more separated in speed than the other pitch that you're tunneling here. So credit to you, man. This has been really fun to watch, and I'm excited to watch you continue on in this manner for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, it's funny. I know everyone calls it a sinker, but like you remember like when we were with JD Martinez, like he was just like, bro, like when I faced you, it's like an airplane. It's not like a sinker. And it's just like that cross seam grip. So like Steven Matz, I think you played with him, right?
Oh yeah, I know Matzy very well.
So yeah, me and Matz throw that cross seam where it's like it's not a true sinker. It's got like more arm side and with a little bit of carry. It's not like the Pavetta 4 seam, so I'm not getting 22, 23 vert, but I try and get like 16, 17, that kind of stuff. So it's a fun little pitch.
Yeah, it's a runner basically.
Yeah.
All right, and then last topic just before I let you go. Congrats on Team USA. That's super exciting. I'm curious about the process of getting on that team because I know for me, it started a couple years ahead of time. Like I knew I wanted to play on it multiple WBCs in a row. In 17, I wasn't selected, but I was in 20. I guess that was 23. And basically, I was way ahead of it. Like I had my people telling the USA people that I was interested years and years ahead because I know the competition, especially in relievers, to get one of those spots. So I'm wondering how it all came together for you and how excited you are about it.
Yeah, I'm stoked. Funny enough, it was more just so Gunnar Henderson works out with me and everything, and I was like, hey, I know you played USA kind of growing up. Like, do you know how this works? And he was like, honestly, dude, like they just call you. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was just like, all right, I told my agent, I was like, hey, like I don't know if you know anyone there, but just let them know like I would be interested. Like, kind of like you, I was like, I don't really think that I would be on the team just because, like, bro, you look at that team and it's going to be basically an all-star team.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those where I just kind of had thought, like, all right, maybe there's an outside chance or that kind of stuff. And I was actually now with a kid, like, I go to bed at 8 o'clock pretty much. And I was sitting in bed and 678 area code number popped up on my phone. And me being from Georgia, all my spam calls come from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I immediately sent it to voicemail. And and so then like me and my wife were reading our books and everything, and then like I get the voicemail chime and I'm like, well, this is weird. Spam doesn't normally leave you a voicemail. And so I was like, all right, I'll open it and see. And I read the little like voicemail description and it was like, hey, this is Mark DeRosa. I think you might know what this is about. You might want to give me a call back. I was like, oh, okay. So called
That's
him back.
awesome.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, for me, it wasn't like years of advance or anything like that. It was just like, hey, like ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to play for Team USA, like the travel ball, the college, all that kind of stuff. And I've never been good enough. So, it was one of those where it's like, hey, it's a dream and everything. And so the fact that they, asked me to, I was honored to get that invite.
Yeah, that was the same for me. It was something I was hunting for a really long time. I never got to go to the trials in college or anything like that, but there's nothing cooler than representing your country in a big tournament. So I think you're going to have a great time. Are you doing anything differently to prepare? You just move everything up a couple weeks or just kind of keeping it the same?
Yeah, I kind of moved everything up a couple weeks. That's pretty much it. I talked to Bales and our medical staff, and just like, hey, what do we think? I basically just had like a Zoom meeting with Bales. I was like, hey, like this is where I'm at. This is what I'm kind of doing. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, like I was a little worried that you were behind. He goes, but where you're at, like you're doing good. So we'll just stay in contact and make sure everything's going good there. And again, this was my first fully healthy season, so I was like, all right, like I'm feeling good that like I'll actually be good to go for this. So, I'm happy about it.
All right, I'm stoked, man. I think it's going to be awesome. They haven't announced the whole team yet, so I'm curious who your teammates are going to be, but you do know you have these boys, Carroll, PCA, and Judgy in the outfield, Skeens, Bobby Witt, Cal Raleigh. This is pretty awesome. So I think you're going to have a freaking blast, man. I'm so fired up for you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be about, if you remember what I was like in 21 at spring training, that's about what I'll be like, just kind of quiet, fly on the wall, ready to soak up the knowledge from those guys, because that's a stacked team right there.
Enjoy it, man. It's one of the best experiences I've ever been a part of. I'm still hoping to maybe I'll see you down there. I'm trying to get on this Italian team for this year, so I actually have an important event to go to tomorrow night that might maybe lock that in a little bit. And if I see you, I see you. But it'll be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. And best of luck this season coming up. WBC. Send my love to the family and everybody. And thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Otto. Tell your family I said hi as well.
I will. All right, G. Good to see you, man. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
All right, that was Mr. Whitlock. Let me just hang up on the call real quick, and then we will go ahead and get back to the program here for a second. And here we go. All right, so I thought that was pretty good. He's awesome. I mean, he's been unbelievable lately. He was probably the best. Thanks, June, for the scarf. I mean, it's cold up here. You know it is, June. So we got to stay warm. Like I said, Garrett, he was probably the best rookie I ever played with in terms of just landing and being good. And that was off of a Tommy John in a Rule 5. Really hadn't had a lot of upper minors experience. Comes from Yankees to Red Sox, shoves all 21, and then he was arguably even better last year. So he's one of my favorite relievers in the game. Great kid. I guess he's not quite a kid anymore. I think of him as a kid because he was a rookie with me in 21, but he's awesome. He's awesome. So that was fun. Good to get his perspective on some things. We learned a little bit about the spiked grip on his death ball slider. He was trying to throw sweeper for a little bit, but it didn't really work because his arm wants to work this way. Everything wants to come in here. But I like the fact that he was willing to, move to the bullpen. I mean, granted, it helps that he's already extended and stuff, and there's not probably any, real upward mobility contract-wise. But at the same time, there's a guy who knows that he can affect the team in a lot of different ways out of the bullpen, and he spoke up, and he had a great season this year, and was a big part of the reason why the Red Sox went to the postseason, and he'll be a big part of them this next year as they try to go a little bit further. So that was pretty fun. Such a good dude for charities in the community too, as well. Yeah, he's awesome. So hopefully the Red Sox fans enjoyed that one, and we're gonna enjoy watching him on Team USA. All right, let's get back over here to our main screen for a second, and let's just knock off one or two more prospects. I know this is like way out of order now, but I want to finish up the show, and I feel like we didn't quite get through enough of our guys yet. We have a couple more to look at. Zyhir Hopoe and Carson Benge would be a good place to stop here. And then we can keep going after that probably on Friday with we'll probably go at least through 40 or 50 of these dudes before we call it on the prospect watching for the year, and we turn our attention to other things like Hall of Fame and stuff like that. All right, Zyhir Hopoe. This is another one of the Dodger outfielders. We just looked at DePaula, and I mentioned Sirota. This is part of kind of what the Dodgers have coming. This was a trade. Zyhir Hopoe and Ferris trade for Michael Busch was a very win-win, so he came over from the Cubs. Let's read about this a little bit. After Hope didn't get picked during the first 2 days of the 2023 draft because he hadn't played much on the high school showcase circuit and appeared to be strongly committed to North Carolina, Dodgers plan to take him in the 11th round. Cubs beat them to it and signed him for $400K, then dealt him and lefty pitching prospect Jackson Ferris to LA 6 months later in exchange for Michael Busch and former teammate of mine, Yency Almonte. He hit .287, .415, .490 in 54 games in single A at 19, despite having a stress fracture in his rib. Then he was the most dynamic player in the Arizona Fall League, where he crushed a 470-foot home run. Here are the scouting tools. 55 hit, 60 power, 55 run, 60 arm, 55 fielding, overall 60. These are very, very strong grades. Let's see what he did this year. He went from high A to double A, only 6 games in double A, but an aggregated 266, 376, 428 for an 804 OPS, 29 doubles, 13 home runs, 79 walks, which is a big walk total, but 143 strikeouts is a lot. 27 stolen bases. All right, so there's Zyhir Hopoe. That's a little bit of information on him. Let's see if we can find some of his swings. I'm curious to watch Mr. Hope. Well, here's a double. We're not going to have a ton here. So you're saying the Dodgers have a lot of hope for this guy. I would say that's fair from a baseball pun perspective. Ooh, another short guy, but clearly packing a punch if he hit a 470-foot home run in the Fall League. That's a nice oppo swing. Another short guy with a big hit tool. I'm telling you, man, there's a correlation here. I mean, he's not like short, but he's not really big, which allows him to be a little more compact, a little less of an area to pitch this guy. The numbers are solid. I am a little concerned about the number of strikeouts. I love the swing, though, right away. The setup is great. Hands are already pulled back. Very comfortable up here. Not a lot going on, so I like that. And I like his prospect grades across the board. The fact that they graded him this high is kind of amazing. I mean, these grades are no joke. 55 hits, 60 power, 55 runs, 60 arm, 55 field. I mean, that's a 55 or better on everything. They don't give that a lot. So that's incredible. Lowest tool is 55, which is outstanding. So we're talking a pretty big floor for this guy in terms of tools. He's got great tools. This guy looks great. I'd love to see him play more. He only just got to AA. So him and DePaula, they're probably not, they're not going to impact the team probably next year. You never know. Maybe they pop. But those are two exciting outfielders. They also have Sirota, who we'll get to on this list down the road. Maybe there's some more videos here. Let's watch Zyhir Hopoe 3-hit game for a second while we wait for this to load. Was up to mid-9s from the left on the mound in high school. So tremendous athlete. Love that he was a two-way guy. We've been big on two-way guys for a while. All right, let's watch this 3-hit game. First of all, I have to say I love the swing right away. So all these dudes that have the big hit tools, they have nice, simple strokes. He's no exception. I like this a lot. Ooh, wow, look how he stayed back on that and pummeled that ball in the gap. That was beautiful. Stays inside, sprays the other way. I don't know. It's a nice swing. We'll see how he does at the higher levels. But there's Zyhir Hopoe with some of the better prospect grades that I've seen in a long time. It's really nice. All right, Zyhir Hopoe, he was prospect number 20 on MLB's list. And now we were going to move on to number 21, Carson Benge. Hold on real quick. More examples of pitching dictating the game from the top down. Pitching trains determine what type of hitter grades higher. Yeah, sort of, because pitching always dictates everything. So it's everything in hitting is a reaction. So yeah, pitchers kind of set the environment, and then hitters have to live in that environment, right? So I picking up a little bit of what you're putting down here, Dano. All right, Carson Benge, very exciting Mets prospect, drafted just last year. Here are the hit grades, and then we'll get into his whole bio. He was picked 19th overall last year, 2024, 6'1", 184, 22 years old, throws righty, bats lefty. All right, hit 60, power 50, run 55, arms 60, which you would expect from a two-way guy, and fielding 55, overall 55. Solid grades. All right, here's the bio. Tommy John robbed Benge of his freshman year at Okie State, broke out nicely as a hitter later with a 345 average and a 1,000 OPS while making 10 starts on the mound. Full-blown two-way guy as a junior. He hit 335, 444, 665 with 18 homers, and also struck out 44 in 37 innings on the mound. Lost out in that award, which is the John Olerud Award, to Jack Caglione. The Mets liked him more as a hitter. They took him 19th overall, and he has absolutely flown since then. Here were the stats from last season for Carson Benge. 3 teams. He goes from Brooklyn to Binghamton to Syracuse. So high A, double A, triple A. Hits a combined 281, 385, 472, 857, and 441 at-bats. 15 home runs, 25 doubles, throw in 7 triples for fun, 68 walks, only 92 strikeouts. That's solid ratio with 22 bags, and he's considered a plus defender. So this is a very exciting player. Apparently the Mets are going to give him every opportunity to impact their roster this year. And I like that. If a guy's ready, let it go. But I also love his two-way aspect. A lot of these two-way guys, I feel like it also helps develop their brain. It's something that a lot of people don't realize. Like understanding the battle from both sides, the pitching and the hitting battle, does give you a leg up. I think you've seen it now with McClain on the other side of things, where he was a two-way guy, actually at Oklahoma State, interestingly. Now he's just a pitcher, and now we're seeing it in the reverse from Benge. So he knows what it's like to toe the rubber. He also knows what it's like to dig his cleats in the batter's box. Here are his prospect grades. All right, so the only negatives are not enough walks, a little too much chase, and not enough pull in the air. But that seems to be fine. Like, that's the skill that you learn over time when you learn how to take more chances and beat a few more balls to the spot. And I don't mind the lower walk rate either, just because, he's an aggressive player, and it's not anything crazy. Now, of course, swing decisions are a huge part of success at the big league level, but everything else is so nice here. Max EV is fine, 110, that's good, considering his size. The speed is fantastic, 92nd percentile in speed. K percentage is good, doesn't punch out a lot, hits the ball hard in general. So I love his underlying metrics here. Most of his power has been pull so far, but he hasn't really spent a whole lot of time in AAA yet. Not that he might at all. There's a chance I've read that he could be the center fielder right off the rip this year. So he's going to be an exciting guy to watch. Let's see if we can see any Carson Benge swings. Here we go. Carson Benge. Here's a triple. One of those aforementioned triples. Ooh, now, this is the first prospect we've seen who's got a lot going on in the swing now. Not necessarily a problem. I mean, Junior Caminero has a lot going on in his swing. So it's not like I'm against it, but we'll probably see this swing get a little more simplified over time. Just based off that first look, this is a very rhythmic swing that will get messed with in the big leagues. Trying to think who I would compare that to. So he starts open, kind of comes up to then come down. You can see the athleticism. Obviously, he barreled the crap out of that ball. But yeah, definitely a rhythm and timing type of hitter from what I've seen so far. A little line drive to left off of Luis Guerrero. I like his bat path. Like, he's got a very good bat path, natural bat path. I do think the load is a lot. So I'm curious how that load's going to play in the big leagues with the real pitchers. Here's a home run. Let's watch this home run. This is why I love watching video on guys. It's one thing to look at metrics. It's another thing to, listen to what other people say. But when you watch a little bit and you get a sense of the setup and the swing, you start to get a better picture of how people are going to attack this guy. I'm guessing his swing's going to work tremendously through the bottom of the zone, like this home run. Off Jake Bird's got a nasty breaking ball, and he still smacks this ball on a 1-2. But I think he's going to get peppered to the top of the zone. He's going to get quick pitched. There's going to be a lot of speed him up, slow him down. Guys are going to try to cutter him to the hands. It's just going to be fascinating to watch the league take their first crack at this guy, because this move, I come in and then I sweep the foot out this last part's a little bit Paul O'Neill-ish. But that whole move is going to get challenged a little bit. Now, maybe he can keep doing it. We've seen great hitters have moves like this. But yeah, it's the first thing that popped out in my mind. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. But man, exciting for a guy to fly up the ranks this fast. Very interesting that the Mets are already on record saying they're giving him a shot. And I really like that. It's really exciting. Yeah, Carson Benge, opening day option for Mets. There's a whole article about it, so it must be real. So, I don't know. Fascinating to watch him in spring training. That's where this is the type of thing where he's going to come to spring training trying to be the dude. And man, spring training is just a whole different place than the real season, but it'll be interesting to see how he puts his best foot forward and pushes them, into a tough decision for opening day. He made contact on 87% of his pitches inside the zone. MLB contact's only 83.2. So despite that leg kick, contact rate's pretty good. So I don't know. Let's just watch it. And see. But exciting that the Mets have a hitting prospect here that's flown past a lot of their other guys, because that hasn't been the case much in the back. All right, tools are one thing, but do you think people other than insane outliers like Ohtani can actually handle developing and making adjustments on an ongoing basis on both sides of the ball? Not many can, Gyro, to be honest. I don't think many people can do this. But I would love to see more people try. I think Ohtani opens up the possibility, and you see what it does for your roster. If you have a guy who can truly do both, whether he's a reliever or a starter, it allows you to do some more things with your roster. So as a team, it's a big advantage. I don't know. Maybe there's also a mental component of not over stressing one side of the ball over the other. Like you have to work on both, so you can't get too in the weeds and screw yourself up, like with your swing or with your delivery, because you have other things to work on. So I don't know, but I don't think Benge is going to be given a chance to pitch anymore. I think he's just a hitter. But I think that the two-way aspect of his development has likely helped him a lot to this point. I know it's different, but Beatty this year had a great spring, which translates to a great year. I just think, look, spring is just like, it's a different time. There's no scouting. You're facing a whole random batch of pitchers, and it's a small sample overall. But of course, you'd rather have a good spring than a bad spring. So we'll take it with a grain of salt, but we'll definitely watch it. Two-way guys are fun as hell. I just think there's reasons. I mean, the reason why nobody did it for all these years is because it is really, really hard to do. Like, and it's also like not worth it if you're like mediocre at one of them. You know, you got to be truly good at both of them. Otani's obviously great at both of them, which makes it different. But I think more people will get the opportunity at least, which is interesting. All right. Oh, here's another comment. What makes it hard is the amount of work hitters have to do to compete day in and day out. If one starts to struggle, then the question is if they focus on the other, how good they can be. I just think sometimes, yeah, I mean, you can make the argument about focusing on one thing as a good thing, but I also think it can be a negative thing too. Like sometimes it's good to get away from something that you're too close to. This is why it's important for players to have hobbies, you know, and other things that they do, you know, away from the field. It's tricky sometimes as a player to, like, you're obsessive. Like I was obsessive, but you also need a chance to give yourself a break sometimes. And I think it's nice if you have other things to do, you know, like, oh, I have to go hit today or I have to go pitch today. You know, I have to focus on that. It kind of detaches you from being maybe too obsessed with all the adjustments you have to make, and maybe keeps you in a more of a less volatile lane, maybe, if that makes sense. I don't know. Benge passed Jet on the prospect list. I wonder if they trade Jet now with Semien. I think they'll be opportunistic with their trade bait, but I don't think they're like looking actively to deal any of these guys. These guys all have 6 years of major league control, so they're all valuable assets as long as they're plus players talent-wise. All right, here's a question about spring training. Let me just go to the solo while I answer a few of these. Is spring more process-focused than results-oriented, and does a young guy trying to make the club have a hard time parsing that? First of all, not true anymore. Now, for a veteran, yes, it's more process-focused than results-focused. My job is to get ready for opening day, and nothing matters in spring training, results-wise. But that is not the case anymore in the minor league levels. The minor league levels are insane. Like when you get to spring training now, you're expected to be ready to compete. This is your chance to be in front of the major league coaches. So there's a lot of pressure to be at your top form in spring training, which is like scary. It's honestly dangerous, I think, health-wise, and probably it's missing the mark a little bit, but that's what the game is now. You show up and you got to be ready to go, and that's why you see people training so differently now throughout the offseason, so they can show up in spring training and be ready to knock somebody's socks off, which is what the young guys are kind of tasked with each and every day, each and every year now in spring training. So yeah, a guy like Benge is going to come in. He's going to try to knock the door down and make the team. It's not about the process anymore. It's about getting results in spring training. So it's interesting. It's a totally different place than I was the last few years, which is probably partly why I didn't make the Red Sox last year, because I have to go through my process. I was 39 years old. I can't just go out there and try to be the Cy Young of spring training. Like, I've got to get ready for the season so I can hopefully contribute if I'm on the club. Now, that hurt me because my buildup is very slow. But for the young guys, they don't get that luxury. They have to come in, hit the ground running for sure. Caglione could have been a good pitcher, but the hitter version was MLB ready while the pitcher needed a lot more development. I think that sometimes that happens too, is like one of them just kind of rushes you to the big leagues and leaves the other skill kind of in the dusk. Would I have Trey Savage higher than 26 after the season he had? I struggle to see how he can be so low after dominating the best team in the majors. So if you look at the pitcher ranking, though, he's ranked very high among pitchers. The only pitchers ahead of you, Savage, are Cade Anderson, Thomas White, Andrew Painter, Bubba Chandler, and Nolan McLean. So I have him 6th overall in baseball. And when you look at the prospect rankings, it's less about who's the best right now. Like, Savage and McLean are clearly ahead of these other guys right now. It's more about how they're projected for the long-term future. And I think some people look at Savage, some evaluators, and they think health risk with the outlier arm angle. Maybe a guy that because he doesn't have anything going left, there's some limitations in his game. But yeah, to answer your question, I would have him ahead of Bubba Chandler. I would probably have him ahead of well, I don't know about Thomas White or Cade Anderson yet, because, you know, they're younger, they're left-handed. Maybe I wouldn't, but he's still ranked very, very high. I understand the need to have him ranked even higher than this, but I think, again, this is more of a long-term view than a short-term view when talking about Savage. Anthony Gose would be an interesting two-way archetype. Run up to 100, also be a great pinch runner and defensive replacement. Yeah, you could find fancy ways to use a guy like this. I know coming up in the minor league system with the Rays, Cronenworth used to open games and throw like 96, 97, and then just play second base or shortstop the rest of the time. So that was an interesting thing. He was like a short sprint type of pitcher. Obviously, that all went away, but I don't know. The two-way guys are very fascinating, for sure. How interesting would it be if the way future MLB teams limited wear and tear on pitchers was by rostering a ton of two-way guys and using them all in limited ways? I mean, MLB is not going to do that. They're going to be more interested in performance. So again, like injuries are something that nobody wants, but again, I don't think they're at the top. Like eliminating them, I don't think is at the very tippy top of the priority list. I think still it's about ruthless effectiveness on the mound and in the batter's box and efficiency with that. Like just injuries are a secondary function of that. So yeah, you try to get better at that. But at the end of the day, like it's all about performance in the game when you're judged on wins and losses. So I don't know that they'll go that way, but if the players are good enough, I think there's more than enough precedent now with Ohtani where people will be given chances to do two-way stuff, which is great. All right. So that was, we went through 21. I mean, we could keep going, and I think we'll definitely on Friday, because these are some fun prospects, a lot of guys that we know about. Peyton Tolley, Jet Williams, Cade Anderson, Thomas White, George Lombard Jr. is famous, obviously is Savage. Seth Hernandez was a famous pitcher. So these will be cool guys to break down on Friday. I have another guest coming on Friday, which I don't, my wife has the schedule. We're actually going to have guests on 7 straight shows, including today. So this show and then the next 6 shows. So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview today with Whitlock. I thought he was cool. I thought he was great. And we'll continue to parse through prospects, and eventually we'll get to other topics. But there's still so many more interesting prospects to go, so we'll keep going. But let me see what else is in this chat real quick before I say goodbye. I mean, it would have to be pretty far down the line for what you're talking about, Gyro. But I hear you. I hear you big time. Why don't more finesse pitchers like Maddox exist anymore? It's just you can't get in the door. Just can't get in the door. Like now that everything's graded on stuff metrics, velocity is a huge input into that algorithm. And if you're low on the velocity, like there's just no reliable precedent really in modern game of some guy dominating with way below average velocity. I mean, there's guys that can do it, but there's a prerequisite. You got to be at least in the 90s, or you're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna have a hard time. But I think there are pitchers now that have power and they have Maddox-like feel and control. Like a Skeens, like, you know, some other guys. I mean, maybe not quite Maddox. He's like he's like the greatest of all time. But there are guys with both power and feel now. So it's interesting. I think stats say 100 with no command is better than even 94 with command. And I think that's part of it too. You know, you just look at the results on fastballs, you know, at a certain rate. And it's no wonder that guys with velocity are getting more chances. You know, they just are. And in a league where you need to get a lot of strikeouts and miss bats to get chances, it's hard to do that with slow velocity in a finesse game. Not to say it can't work. In fact, I think developing that type of game is key for longevity and key for overall success as the league adjusts to whatever your quote-unquote nasty stuff is. But most of the time, you get your foot in the door by having great stuff, and then you prove that you can get people out with finesse later. Seems right for a low payroll team might see the finesse pitchers as a new market inefficiency. I mean, maybe. But, I mean, you're talking about a high level of command and feel and mix needed to make it work. There are some. Trevor Williams is a guy. You know, Kyle Hendricks was a guy for a while. I mean, there's some. But it's hard to find enough of them. And I do think you might find more guys that are polished, command, finesse-type guys that then they end up signing those guys and then training more stuff into them. Maybe that's the other direction we go. So then when guys hit the big leagues, you'll notice, oh man, these guys have all such good feel, but you don't realize that this is the type of pitcher they were first, and then this stuff and the physical attributes get added on later. Whereas that's the opposite of how it always used to work. They would just draft you on stuff and they'd try to teach you how to pitch later. That's still going on, but I think now we might see it in the reverse relationship a little more often, to your point here. All right, I saw this too. I've seen you guys in the chat. Anthony Kay to the White Sox. Anthony Kay, former Mets first rounder. He's another guy who did really well. I think he was on Bauer's team, Yokohama Bay Stars this year in Japan, had a good season. So I'm not going to do a whole breakdown on Anthony Kay, I don't think. Let me see if I can even find anything good on Anthony Kay. 2 for $12 million. I'm telling you, man, this Asia route Definitely a definitely an option. Definitely an option out there. This is an MPB lefty. He was also briefly on the Mets when I was there. We had brought him back over, and then he didn't really pitch. It was crazy. All right, so this was his year with the Bay Stars. 155 innings pitched, 111 hits, 130 strikeouts, 41 walks, 1.74 ERA. So he shoved. They are in a dead ball era, but he had a great go. Made all 24 starts. I don't know what the stuff looks like this year. I don't know if that ticked up at all. But yeah, had a hell of a year. 1.74, and he is a lefty with a former first-round pedigree. So it'll be interesting to see. This is another guy to break down. I guess it's official on here. So he had in Japan, he only had a 20.9% strikeout rate. I'm a little skeptical about how well this is going to work. I'm not going to lie. I am a little skeptical. Let's see if we can find any videos of him from the Bay Stars. I was hoping for some shorts like we had of Cody Ponce. Well, let's just go to here. We'll wait for this to load, and then I'll fire this up, and we'll just get a sense of what he looks like these days. All right, here we go. UConn product, former Met high pick. Struggled initially, kind of shoved, obviously not kind of shoved. 1 point something this year in Japan is outstanding. Little Brett Cecil in that delivery for sure. Looks like he's got a left-on-left sinker action, blowing up these dudes. It's also, though, remember I did mention that I was not so high on him maybe a little bit just a second ago because of the strikeout rate, but strikeouts are much harder to come by in the NPB. So that's also, you have to take that and bake that into your evaluation of that as well. But lefty with good velo, good pitch mix. I think this was a great experience for him going out there, getting 2 years in Japan. Now he's going to come back to the White Sox, and we'll see how he does in that AL Central. Oh, here comes a changeup or a split, dirty. It's amazing how these guys develop so much when they're over there. They make more than the minor leagues guys, Jay Farrell. They make usually close to $1 million, if not more, when they would be making minor league salary over here, which could be like 200,000 or 300,000. So that's why it makes a lot of sense for guys to go over there and get a better payday right now. But it also takes you out of the major league system in terms of service time and everything. Gets you right into the free agency system. Anthony Kay was super far away from free agency, but yet now he's a free agent getting $12 million over 2 years. So it's a big deal. And yeah, I've held a KBO ball. Feels a little tackier, a little maybe a hair smaller with a little bit different seam. The tackiness definitely stands out. A little naturally tacky. Japan as well, but a little bit different. Anyway, this is one of Kay's better games in Japan this year. And he was great. So I'll be curious to see how this one plays out. White Sox getting in the free agent market. This is usually the type of thing that they're involved in these days, which is more, bottom feeding. Because obviously Kay was not rated very high, I would say, of the overall major league guys, but awesome for him, making $6 million a year for 2 years to go start in the big leagues. And if he pitches well, then he'll be able to stick around and make a ton of more money after that. So this is his real big opportunity he's been waiting for. Also, people are noticing that he's rocking a certain number here. Don't think he's always done that, but obviously it worked for him, so I bet he'll wear it on the White Sox this year. Let's see if he has the balls to rock that in America. There's a sweeper. Those Tokyo jerseys are clean. Oh, it looks like in this game he's coming back out for a 9th inning. Well, I also wonder, and I know Bauer had a tough year this year, but I have to say, he's so knowledgeable about pitching. I wonder if being on his staff didn't be on the same staff as him didn't help him a lot with some information and some knowledge. You can say what you want, but the guy knows what he's talking about with a lot of pitching stuff. 2 outs in the 9th. There's that sweeper. So I'm seeing sinker sweeper basically out of Anthony right now. He's also been AK-47. Wow. Okay. So yeah, definitely a guy who has fun with his number. All right. So there's a complete game. It's pretty good. All right. Very cool. Anthony K. And so that is now for the White Sox. Let's just go look. I mean, we looked at the White Sox for a hot second. They didn't have a ton going on. Let's see where Anthony K fits in. He have him currently in the 4 spot. It's good that they got a lefty in here. They were a little right-handed. Shane Smith, Davis Martin, Sean Burke, Anthony K. I mean, look, a lot of times, people are like, oh man, the White Sox, whatever. This is a great situation for a guy who needs innings, who needs to get a chance to get his feet under him. And if he pitches well, then he can go to a big time team, a contender or whatever. But this is a great opportunity. I think this is a good fit. Makes all the sense in the world for Anthony. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. He has 2 years and 6 days of service time. So he was basically 4 years away from free agency. But yeah, he skipped all that by going to Japan for the 2 years. And now he's a free agent and he got the $12 million. So it makes a lot of sense why this all came together this way. Yep, you missed Whitlock. He was good. He was on for about 20, 25 minutes. You rewind it, he'll be in there. We'll also cut that out separately and we'll put it up as a video as well. So he was great, though. Gave us some good insight. All right, I think that's it for me. 12:21. I got to get some lunch or work out or something like that. And then start thinking about the second half of the day. So really good time hanging with you guys on the stream. We'll have another guest on Friday. It'll be on the thumb, so you'll see it. We're going to have guests each of the next 6 shows. So Friday, same time, same place. Baseball and Coffee. Thanks for hanging out with me today as we went through another 10 prospects. We looked at Devin Williams signing with the Mets. We looked at Cody Ponce signing with the Jays. Now we just took a 2-second look at Anthony K. We talked in the chat. Everything's great. This was fun. And I'll see you guys on Friday. So peace out. Have a great day. Stay warm if you're in the Northeast. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.